Right, good morning everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Welcome to the Adobe Twitch channel, where it's all about creativity. And in these 3 days, starting yesterday, today, and tomorrow, we're talking about photography and video. And of course, we have great guests. We have Nace with us.
Hey guys.
We're gonna go on and start learning about Photoshop. We have Eric Kim, who's gonna be continuing with his street photography workshop. We have DJ Cutman, who yesterday finished his Photoshop artwork, and today we're gonna be starting to work in After Effects. And yeah, hey, Aaron.
Hey.
Welcome back.
Thanks. Glad to be back.
What did you think about yesterday?
It was great.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was fun. It was like 3 hours. Went by totally quick. And yeah, had a great time.
All right.
Yeah, and I'm learning about live streaming, so I'm like kind of pumped because live streaming is kind of fun. I'm like, oh, it's like you can make mistakes and no one cares.
Well, they care in the chat. We have the chat right here. So yeah, I know they pay a lot of attention. Hello, everyone.
Hey guys.
It's a French lighthouse in the back. I don't know. Yes, it could be a French lighthouse. Yeah. So basically, Aaron from Flern.
Yeah. Here we go.
Just launched a new product last week. It's a 21-hour Photoshop course.
That's right. It's called Photoshop 101 through 301. It's our most comprehensive Photoshop tutorial ever created, and it's already the best-selling tutorial we've ever created as well. It just launched last week, so it's like, it's huge. It's blowing up. People are freaking out, like, oh my god, you guys put so much into this class. And we basically worked on it for like 4 months of like solid recording and editing. And I'm super proud of it. It's the best product we've ever released.
And you can find that on flern.com.
Yeah, flern.com, the homepage, and also if you want a direct link to the product page, it's flern.com/Photoshop.
Okay. And then of course Aaron also does a whole bunch of free videos as well on the YouTube channel, right?
Yeah, that's right. If you guys are interested in learning Photoshop and you don't feel like paying, that's totally okay. We have over 800 free tutorials on YouTube. 800 free.
800 free. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we have over 803 tutorials. Okay.
We have exactly 804, but I say over 803. Yeah.
All right, that's awesome. Over 800 tutorials.
Free tutorials. Yeah, free tutorials, and we release 2 every single week. So if you guys are interested in learning Photoshop, that's a great place to start.
One yesterday, right?
Yeah, yesterday we released how to use face-aware liquify in Photoshop, which is brand new to Photoshop CC 2015.
Feature came in last week, 2 weeks ago, maybe?
Yeah. Yep. So we're making tutorials every single week, so we're able to, every new feature that gets introduced into Photoshop, we're able to cover that and make sure you guys can learn it and integrate it into your workflow.
All right, so basically what we did with Aaron yesterday was go through his 5 favorite tips and tricks for the features for today, and then we'll start working on a few images and just see Aaron work, and you can ask him questions in the chat. We're here to answer all of them. And hey, why don't we just start and
let's get back into it.
Get this thing going.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
All right. So yesterday we started out with 5 tips that I recommend, just things that I think are going to help you work a little bit better in Photoshop, be a little bit faster, more efficient. And today we're back with another 5 tips. So let's go ahead and jump into Photoshop here. All right. So here's my very fancy list of 5 tips. My first tip here is load files into Stack. All right, so you can see I've got a blank screen right now. Now, oftentimes when you want to bring a bunch of different images into Photoshop, the old hard way to do it is just to hit go to File and down to Open a million times and then try to drag them all together into the same document. So my recommendation is, instead of doing that, go to File, down to Scripts, and to load files into a stack. So File, Scripts, and load files into a stack. So here I'm going to hit Browse, and we're going to go to our actual files here. I'm going to go to Files. These are files from Photoshop 101. These are all images that are included in the tutorial. They're all JPEGs. I'm going to hit open here. Now, from this dialog box, you can also align the source images. So, for instance, if you took a bunch of pictures on a tripod and you want to align them together and maybe create your own like manual HDR or, you know, clone someone out of the background, whatever it is, you can align them here, and you can also create smart objects as well. So I'm going to hit OK. We don't need to align these together, but you're going to see basically it takes all of those different image files and then loads them as layers. So we're just going to zoom out a little bit, and you can see each of those different image files is now a layer in a new document. So again, if you're working with a bunch of different files, which I do all the time for compositing.
Yeah, I don't want to see people opening 5 files and then copy paste into one, copy paste from the other, and then closing the other 4.
It takes forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes forever. So if you guys are working with multiple files, I highly suggest using load files into a stack. All right, so that's my first tip. Load files into stack. My next tip is the rubber band mode within the pen tool. Have you used this? It's like a little secret little option.
Okay, let's see.
All right. So rubber band mode, for a lot of people using the pen tool for the first time are a little bit, it can be, there's a learning curve with using the pen tool. And for those of you who don't know what the pen tool does, basically, just hit P for the pen tool, it's right over here. Okay, the pen tool is used for making vectors in Photoshop that then you can use to make selections. For instance, if you want to cut your subject out of the background in a very precise way, the pen tool is a really good tool for that. Okay, so now the difficult thing about the pen tool is kind of predicting where it's going to go. So I'm just going to create a path and, you know, kind of click around here on my image. And you can see basically these anchor points pull your curve in different directions. So this anchor point is going to pull my curve down in that direction. So if I click here, there we go. We can kind of see it's being pulled by both of these anchor points. Now you can move this at any point in time. You can hold Control or Command and click on any of these control points, and you can move at any time, creating a new pen path. Now, one feature that I like, let's go ahead and go back to our paths. There we go. Let's just delete our work path. So back here in the paths, we're going to use rubber band mode. So clicking on our pen tool, I'm going to go up here to our little gear icon and click on rubber band. Okay, now with rubber band selected, I'm going to click and drag out. You're going to see I get a preview of what's going to actually happen with my pen path. So if I click here and drag in this direction, I'm going to get a preview of what the pen path actually looks like. So as I'm, you know, for instance, I'm trying to trace around my subject. Isn't that nice? That's kind of cool. So I can click here and, you know, obviously I'm doing a very quick job trying to trace around my subject here, but it just gives me a very good idea of what I'm actually going to be doing with my pen tool. So again, basically the idea with a pen tool, for the most part, is trace around your subject, all right? And then you can use that pen path to cut your subject out of the background.
Yeah, we talked about that yesterday because you can make selections around, you know, around things like using, you know, the quick selection tool, for example, and things like that. But when you want to be really precise, like you like have complete control and have things that you can then modify as well, the pen tool is still one of the most precise tools, maybe.
I would say so. Yeah, I would say so. So if you're basically, you know, if I'm going to cut this subject out of her background, let's just zoom in, and I'll give you guys a little quick demonstration of the pen tool here. Let's say I need to cut her out. Basically, I'm going to start here in a corner, so we'll click here in the corner. Okay, and I'm just going to kind of come up right here because I have rubber band mode selected. I'm going to see a preview. So you just kind of go until, you know, like, okay, that looks good. Let's click and drag out in that direction. All right, here we'll click and drag out in this direction. See a little preview, which helps out a ton. All right, so I can pull this up and say, yep, that looks good there. Click out here. And then for hair, we're going to click down here. Go right to the bottom. Now here I need to actually create a corner. So I'm going to hold Alt or Option and click and drag this point out in that direction. All right, and come down here. Pull this in that direction. So you can see basically we're just clicking and dragging in the direction that we actually want our pen path to pull.
So somebody was asking about the rubber band tool, the rubber band function in the pen tool. Well, in Illustrator, if that also exists in Illustrator, in Illustrator we actually call it the curvature tool. So it's another tool. Okay, so it's a tool right next to the pen tool, and it's called the curvature tool, and it behaves pretty much the same way as we've just seen with the rubber band.
Cool. Okay? Yeah, with the curvature tool, it looks like it's changing back one as well. Yeah, if we can see your screen, you can see it's changing back behind this other little node right there. When I think the pen tool in Photoshop, I don't think it's gonna do that. Yeah, it won't like smooth out your curve, which the Illustrator ones.
Oh, but also I mean the pen tool does it automatically.
Oh, it does.
Yeah. See if I.
Oh, it does. Yeah, you're right.
So if I click here, see.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Cool.
So Illustrator does it already.
Yeah. So. It's a new feature. Well, it's a new option within Photoshop, and Illustrator has it built in.
Yep, Illustrator already does. Yep. Thank you, evil Cerise.
You are so evil. You are just too evil. All right, so that's my second tip, the rubber band mode with the pen tool. All right. Third tip is the clone source. So if you guys are using the clone tool, the clone stamp tool, oftentimes it can be difficult to see what you're actually cloning. You know, it's like, okay, I want to make a copy of something, but maybe you have to align two different layers together, and it can be really difficult to see what you're doing. So my suggestion is to use the preview mode within the clone source tab. So we'll show you guys how that works. All right. Now, in this case, let's see if we have a, let's see if we have an actual, real life example of when this would be helpful. All right, let's use this case. All right, so in this case, let's say I want to get rid of this like little wrinkle there this is just a guy sitting on a white box there.
Yeah, I wouldn't want you to get rid of that wrinkle.
We're gonna see about getting rid of this guy there, just that little wrinkle there. Now, I'm going to hit S for the clone stamp tool and sample my point. Now, let's go to Window, and I'm going to go to Clone Source, and this is how the clone stamp tool looks by default. So, if I'm on a new layer here, so let's create a new layer, and basically, to get rid of this wrinkle, I can just clone this area from here right over here. Okay, so Alt or Option to sample a point, so Alt or Option, sampling the point. And now I'm going to start painting this over. And it's like, okay, cool, we're getting rid of the wrinkle, but you can see I'm not aligned with the rest of the image, right? This white line isn't there, and maybe I have to like try to grab the move tool and move it, and that's pretty annoying. So my suggestion is to go to Window and down to Clone Source. Clone Source, and that's going to bring up this dialog. Now, you can do a lot with this dialog. You can have multiple clone sources here, but my suggestion for today is to click on the Show Overlay icon. So we're going to click on Show Overlay there. Okay, so showing the overlay. Now, with my clone stamp tool, I'm going to hold Alt or Option and sample there. And then when I move this around, check that out. We actually see a preview of what we're going to be cloning. So I can just simply go right down here, align it up and click and then start painting up. And there we go. We've gotten rid of that little wrinkle. And it's a really great way to align different layers together because oftentimes, when you're using the clone stamp tool, it can be really obvious that you've used the clone stamp tool, especially when things don't line up. Someone says my mic level is low.
Your mic level is low.
Mine is. No, it's not.
It's not. Let me...
Hello.
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 Okay, let's... I can hear you just well.
Okay, good. So that's a really cool tip. Now, you can also do the same thing. Let's create a new layer here. Let's click on Show Overlay Off. You can do the same thing if you have Show Overlay Off. You can hold Alt or Option to sample a point and hold down Shift. So if I'm going to be painting in a new place, I can hold Option and Shift. If you guys are on a PC, it's going to be Alt and Shift. And there you can see your little clone stamp overlay. Okay, so if you don't have this checked, you can still use your keyboard shortcuts to make that active. That's the third tip. Are we on number 3 already? That is the third tip of the day.
All right. And somebody's asking, that's a question that I frequently get. I'm currently using Adobe Elements, to edit my photos. How limited is it comparing to Photoshop? I think it's two completely different stories. It's like, you use the applications for different things, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I don't have much experience using Elements. I would say Elements is a great place. If you guys are just kind of beginning and you want to get an idea of what photo editing is like, I would say if you're looking to do complex photo editing or make a career out of photo editing, or just any type of graphics in general, I would say just Photoshop CC is the way to go over Elements.
Yeah. As soon as you also have other workflows together with maybe illustration workflows with Illustrator or layouts and InDesign, and it's all part of a big family of products that let you do professional work, professional publishing work.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm a big Photoshop fan, and again, I think Elements is great for those of you guys who are just starting out. But if you're going to be taking this a bit more seriously, I would definitely go with Photoshop CC. And it's like, it used to be pretty expensive to buy, and I know a lot of people, that was kind of like a deterrent. But now, I mean, what is it? $9.99 a month or something? $9.99 a month
for Photoshop and Lightroom.
Lightroom, which is nuts. I mean, that's like, that I think made a huge. It just made it more available to a lot more people. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So there's all this discussion about the mic being low, being high, but I think
you're good.
I think we're good. All right.
Yeah. It's more your refuse when you talk to Aaron.
Okay. When I turn my head.
Never turn your head.
Never turn my head. All right.
All right.
Okay. So that was tip 3.
Tip number 3. Yeah. So my next tip is custom brushes and creating custom brushes. Now, a lot of people, when they work in Photoshop, they let's just zoom out here. We'll give you a little cool example. Brushes are one of the most powerful things you can use in Photoshop, and I recommend, if you guys are, a lot of people see the brush tool and they're like, okay, yeah, I got it. You just paint with a color. Like, it's not very complicated. But the brush tool is incredibly powerful, not only for painting on your images, but also for working on layer masks in general. So I'm going to show you guys a little bit about how to create a custom brush, and just kind of show you some of the features that you can use with the brush tool. All right, so we're going to create a new layer here. I'm going to use my brush tool, and we're just going to choose a bright green for now. Okay, and show you kind of like, here's what a standard brush looks like, right? We're just painting with a pretty soft edge brush, totally standard. Now let's go into our brush menu. So we're gonna go to Window and down to Brush. So here in the brush menu, you have so many options for your brush tool. We're gonna start off here at the top, and I'm not gonna spend, you could probably spend an hour just in this brush menu. It's so, there's so many features here. So we're gonna start up at the top with our shape dynamics. Now, if I click and drag from the left to the right, you can see we've just got a pretty regular brush there, right? Now, if I click on size jitter and I start to bring my size jitter up, you can see we're changing the size of our brush as we paint, and you can see it's changing as I paint here as well. Now, we can also turn on scattering. So if I turn on scattering and start to scatter these points out, check that out. From one brush, now we have a ton of little points scattering around our image. Okay, so we have we've totally changed what the brush tool is. So in this case, we'll just imagine for a second. Let's go ahead and delete that. I'm gonna change my brush color back to white and start painting around, and now we have something that kind of looks like snowflakes, right? Like snow on an image. Now maybe I'll just scatter that even more, and I'll bring my spacing up quite a bit, and maybe bring our hardness up.
You're right, that's one of those panels that you can get lost for hours.
Oh my gosh, yeah, you can create anything you can think of. There we go. So we have like little snowflakes and things like that in our image now. Just took like 2 seconds And now we have something like
a bokeh effect.
Yeah, especially if you make your image like way larger, like yeah, for sure. Like okay, cool. Or like you can do interesting things, making it look like rain is on the lens and all kinds of fun effects.
So Matt Bond Photos was here yesterday as well. Is there a way to group or organize the brushes? Loads of brushes, and it's a nightmare trying to find the ones I want, the ones to use.
Yeah, that's a great question. What I would recommend is, so we're here. Let's go ahead and use our brush tool, and I'm just going to right-click on our image here. Now we do have a few options here as far as display. So I'm just using my brush tool and right-clicking with the brush tool. Now here I'm going to click on the gear, and we have some options here. We can have these be, I believe by default, small thumbnail is checked. So you just see a small thumbnail of your different brushes. Now if you name your brushes, let's say you create your own brush and you save it and name it, you can click here on your little gear icon and go to a list. So in this case, I've got a brush called Aaron's Brush, which I like a lot, and I've called it Aaron's Brush. So in this case, it can be a little bit easier to find these. Now, I also recommend, if you go to this gear icon, go down to your preset manager. All right, so your preset manager will allow you to actually rearrange your brushes as well. So I have this brush called the Flern Star Brush. I created it for a free tutorial. You can actually click and drag that up or down on your list. So like, let's say we have a few brushes that we use commonly. I'm going to bring those up at the top. We have our snowflake brush here. Well, let's bring that up to the top as well. And we can kind of change the order of our different brushes. And you can also remove brushes that you don't use a lot. Like, there are all kinds of brushes. Let's go to load here. Sorry, we're gonna let's go ahead and go to M brushes. We're gonna hit M brushes and hit append, and you're gonna see it popped all these extra brushes into Photoshop. And I'm like, oh man, I don't really use all these extra brushes. So you can hold Alt or Option within your preset manager. So again, we use our brush tool, right click, and then go to the little gear, go to the preset manager, and now holding Alt or Option, we bring up a little scissors, and I can just click on all these brushes and just delete them out of my brush menu real quick. So you can always get those back if you go to your gear icon and click on any of these brushes as well. Now,
so did you mention that you can actually view brushes by alphabetical order as well?
I don't know that you can sort these. Can you?
Okay, I don't know. I'm asking. It was just a thought because when I had to organize a lot of text styles in InDesign, for example.
Oh, okay.
I would give them a letter. So.
Oh, okay.
And then to access them quickly, I need the style from group A, or the style from group B, so.
And can you group brushes together?
No, you can't. No, you can't.
Okay.
Oh well, now you can. You can group styles, but in the past I had to use that trick to
find the brush you want
quickly.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Another thing that you can do if you have different sets of brushes, let's say you have a retouching set of brushes. Let's say that all these brushes here, these are going to be my retouching set of brushes. So I can shift click on all these brushes here. And again, I'm in my preset manager. I can shift click on all those brushes, and I can go to save set. So it's actually going to save that set of brushes. All right, so we'll go to retouching there. So I just saved this set of brushes as retouching. Now let's say we have another, and you can see it shows up right here. Let's say we're going to go to our faux finish brushes, and I'm going to hit OK. So I'm not going to pen, I'm just going to replace. All right, so we'll say I don't need to save that. So now all we have are our faux finish brushes. Okay. Now, if I want to get back to my retouching brushes, really easy to do. I can just click here on that gear icon, go to retouching, and hit OK. And now I've got all my retouching brushes back.
That's a way to group them.
Yeah. So this is kind of a way to group them. If you have, different sets. Again, I use custom brushes for retouching. I have brushes that I make for fog and clouds and atmospheric, dust and stuff like that. So you could definitely group them by that and just hit load with your different groups. That's a great question.
And Jay Sutton Photo is asking, I see you using a lot of gradient backgrounds. I was wondering if you could touch upon how to deal with gradient banding. Maybe we can do that while we work on the images.
Yeah, for sure. My big suggestion there is work in 16-bit instead of 8-bit, and that's basically...
That's basic. Okay,
yeah,
there you
that's
go.
basically the...
Easy answer.
Yeah, just work in 16-bit. It has to do with... 16-bit, and I would also recommend working in a color space that supports more colors. So I would...
RGB.
Yeah, either in ProPhoto RGB or Adobe RGB 1998. Stay away from editing in sRGB because it's a very small color space. It's great for the web, but it's not great for editing. So, 16-bit and use a large color space like ProPhoto RGB or Adobe RGB 1998, and then you won't have issues with banding. Sometimes adding a little bit of noise can help with banding. There's, like people who just go to like filter noise and add noise and just add a tiny bit of noise. It can help kind of like hide the banding. But that's kind of like a workaround. So
yeah, Robzilla is reminding me, and I was thinking about it. Do you know you can create brushes with your phone?
No.
Yeah.
Can we show me? Can you load that little thing in here?
I think we're gonna show you that. Wait.
Brushes with your phone? Are you nuts, Robzilla?
And again, it's part of the part of Adobe Capture.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can.
This actually sounds really cool.
Let's see if we can get the screen up. All right, here we go. All right, so let me show you.
All right.
Okay, you remember Adobe Capture from yesterday?
Yeah, we captured some colors.
We captured some colors, yeah, and then we shared them, and they came into our libraries and stuff like that. So basically, I can also create brushes, and basically, what I can do is let's create a new brush. Let's see if I can find something.
Here, make a brush out of my croissant, or maybe the bottle cap.
Maybe let's try that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's put this here. Okay.
Stumptown's getting a...
well, it's going to be hard. Let me get some white paper.
Oh, white.
Just to have the background lighter.
Yeah, good idea. Capture is great. What?
Maybe I have a piece of paper here. Yes, here I have a piece of paper.
Oh,
Okay.
perfect.
Yeah, I always have my piece of paper with me. All right, so let me see. Okay, let's take a picture of that. Okay. Then I can go in here and say, okay, I'm gonna crop the brush to the exact object that I wanted.
Yep.
Okay, next. Oh, and then I already have my brush here, see? And
wow.
Yeah, and I can actually, let's create a brush, next. See? And I can already use it. But let's go back and actually go back to Capture because I wanted to take all the color away. So let's go like this. Let's capture this, and let's go back here and say, all right, because I just want this. Okay, so let's say something like that. Let's capture that. Let's crop it.
That's so cool.
And you can do that with anything really. And then you can choose whether you want, Photoshop sketch brushes or for Photoshop. And for example, this one here, you see, this one is a scatter brush with this little thing that we've just photographed. So let's go to next, and I can already test it out like this.
That's
and
cool.
Then I save it, and I call it Aaron's brush, of course. Aaron's. And let's put it into my brushes. I think I have a brush library. Or maybe not. Let's just create a new library and call it Aaron. Okay. And boom. Let's put it in here. And there we go. And then now I can save that brush in there. And when I open my my libraries in Photoshop, that's my brushes right there. I can import it and start using it right away.
That's so cool.
So now we've done it with a round shape. Of course, that's that could work with scatter brushes or things like that. But you can if you take a pencil, you can actually choose exactly how actually let's do it.
With a pencil too?
No, let's like for a longer shape. Let me just grab my pencil here, and let's take this one here. We can do that on the black, actually. Let's put it here.
Okay.
Maybe let's take a darker one. Okay, perfect. All right, so let's take this, close, let's make a new brush. And let's get rid of the background. Okay, now it's got the shadow, of course, but let's pretend that's okay. Okay, let's go here. Can even rotate it a little bit. Okay, next. And then let's do brushes like this. And you see, like, if I go here, it starts and ends. You know,
what?
Like a big pen, like a long pen. That's pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, that's insane. You can't do that in regular Photoshop.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think you can.
No. Because then I can also go in here and actually edit them, edit the brush, and basically editing the brush also lets me to say, okay, this here is the tail. Okay, this shouldn't expand. This here is the cap. It shouldn't expand, and the body can actually get longer. Okay, so I say done. At that point, now when I paint that, I can have that very long pencil like that.
That is
pretty
so
cool, huh? And then
and
again,
you can put this in Photoshop?
Yep.
And it'll have the colors too?
This one was for Photoshop. This was for Photoshop Sketch.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. But if I create, in Photoshop, you do the scatter brushes. These types of brushes, okay, or Illustrator brushes as well.
But you can draw in Photoshop Sketch and send it to Photoshop.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Let's try. Let's save this as a Photoshop Sketch.
Okay.
Let's take this one here. Okay. Next. I like that. All right. Next. And then let's call this Aaron 2.
I'm learning so much.
Okay. And put that in Aaron's. And okay. And save the brush. Now let me go back to Photoshop Sketch. Do I have? But I would need that on the iPad. Yeah. Well, in Photoshop Sketch on the iPad, I would then be able to.
You can sketch with that.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and then you can from Photoshop Sketch send it to Photoshop as a layered file. You know. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, pretty cool. Thanks, Robzilla. Wow. Okay, brush name Spaghetti Pen. Yep, Mash Muffin.
Mr. Spaghetti Pen.
Okay, back to Aaron. All right.
Back in.
Yeah, so
that was cool. Yeah, I can imagine, taking pictures around the city. I live in Chicago, so we've got a lot of like rusted old bridges and paint peeling textures and stuff like that. So taking pictures of cool textures.
Yeah.
Turning those into brushes to create like grunge effects on photos. That's like.
Are you talking about textures?
Yeah, talking about textures. Oh, we got one more example.
One more example.
Are you talking about textures?
You're talking about textures?
Are you kidding me?
You're kidding me? All right, let's go back to the phone a second. And still in Adobe Capture, okay, I have the possibility to create patterns, okay? So basically patterns allows me to create seamless patterns, okay, like textures like that. So maybe there we can take your croissant.
All right.
Get your croissant over here.
You want it on the piece of paper?
Let's put it. No, just leave it in the plate. We're gonna take a detail. This is gonna be horrible. Like, okay, so let's see. Okay, see, like I can take the texture from that croissant. Okay, I can choose from different types of, of geometries.
Oh, that's so cool, and it shows you live.
Yeah, it shows you live. Okay, so I like this one here. Let's go
beautiful.
With this. And so, okay, let's take this part here. And then you can still like define exactly how the image is rotated inside and create that texture. And you can zoom in, zoom out. Let's go to 100%. This is still part of your croissant, but it's like and
that's cool.
And then again we say next. Okay, this is the pattern. I can zoom in, zoom out, as complex as I want, and then next. And we're gonna put that run. Okay.
Evil Cersei's hungry now.
Yeah, save pattern. And again, here, when I open that pattern, I can, of course, send it to Facebook, to Twitter. And this is really cool because if I send it to Facebook or Twitter, I can actually share it with everybody. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Share it with me.
I'll share it on Twitter. Okay.
Share it on Twitter. Can I log into Twitter and get it?
And everybody can see it. Yeah.
All right. Let's see if I can do this, and then I'll put that as the background of my.
Check out Aaron. Adobe Capture, okay, and it's in my assets, all right, so I'm gonna post that. I just shared the pattern with the whole world, okay? Looks like bacon, yeah.
What's your Twitter login? I want to see if I can do it.
Oh no, you can go to your Twitter and just Rufus D.
All right.
Just search for Rufus D. And these are the top ones. Let's go down a little bit. Where's my pattern?
That's you.
Yeah, that's me. Oh,
Check it out.
All right. Are we back? Okay, we're back on Aaron's computer.
All
Perfect.
Right. So let's see. I can click here.
Okay. And basically, you go into my Creative Cloud files, and everybody else can do that too.
Okay.
Okay, it's loading.
I guess I gotta sign in.
No, not necessarily.
No?
But yeah, if you sign in, you can save it to a library.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so it's loading.
Okay, here's my pattern. And then from this pattern, you can actually save it to your Creative Cloud.
All right, so I'll need to sign in for this.
Yeah. Do you want me to move away from your screen a second? Can we move away a second? Okay, great. Now your screen is not being broadcast.
All right, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
All right, let me see what...
Do you remember your login?
I have a few. That's... There we go.
Okay.
Oh, hold on.
Passwords.
My password is Rufus is awesome.
Okay.
All right, so we can...
You can save it into a library. Okay, create a new library.
Yeah, let's create a new library here.
Mm-hmm.
And save patterns.
All right. And
then we click on patterns and say copy.
Yeah. And everybody else has access to that same pattern, and
that's cool.
Yeah, that's a good way to share these things as well. So now, if you go back to what did it say? Aaron's has been saved to library patterns. Okay, so if you go back to your Photoshop,
all right,
and we can remove the croissant.
We can remove the croissant.
My white sheet of paper, which is super useful.
All right, so we'll go to Window and Libraries.
Yeah. And then go to the library that you've just created.
Okay, patterns.
Yeah.
And there it is.
All right. Boom.
What?
From my phone to your Photoshop.
Man, that's cool. Change the scale here as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's my croissant. Looks so good.
And of course, you can use that pattern to do whatever in Photoshop.
Yeah, make wallpaper,
for example.
Make a change someone's shirt.
Textures. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is cool. Man, it looks like a ceiling, like a church ceiling or something like that.
And in the end, it was just a bacon croissant.
No, cool. All right.
Robzilla. Yeah, buttery patterns. And thanks for the tip, Robzilla. Yeah. I was debating in my head, should I not? But good idea. I'm glad we did it.
I'm glad we did that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had no idea you could do that. Mm-hmm. Both the creating the pattern on the app and then sending it
and the brushes
to everyone. Mm-hmm. That's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to send it to everyone, right? I mean, I just did it because I felt generous.
You felt generous, yeah. So everyone watching, you guys can go, you can download this exact same pattern.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah, mash muffin. It's like we're staying in food. It looks like maybe your grandma's wall pattern. Yep. But you can actually create some super awesome patterns with less complex geometries, like maybe just a line or a part of a logo, like very, very, very interesting patterns you can create with that.
Wow.
Yeah, okay, again, living room in the 70s when I was a kid, yeah. Everybody's talking about the grandma now.
I know.
All right. Great. We created grandma's pattern.
We created grandma's pattern. Yeah.
All right. So that was the brushes.
That was brushes. And I do have one more thing that I wanted to do for the brushes in Photoshop, and that's show you guys how to create a custom brush shape. So up until now, we created a pen brush on the app, which is cool. I didn't even know you could do that. We've created like what looked like kind of like a snowflake brush here in Photoshop, and that was just just a round shape, but we can actually use, we can actually create custom shapes as well. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Basically create a star brush here. So let's create a new layer here. And I'm just going to zoom in and basically let's just create, we'll create a brush that looks like this star here. So we're going to grab, I'm just going to grab my marquee tool, the rectangular marquee. There we go. And make a selection right around our star brush. There we go. And now I could turn this right into a brush, but we've got some black and we've got some white here on the layer. So what we really want to do is we want to make sure that our background is completely white and we have our brush, the shape, we want that to be completely black. Okay, so what I'm going to do basically is I'm going to just duplicate this layer, the layer that my subject's on. I'm going to duplicate that.
I'm just going to have to stop John Klunger's, like posting the link 3 times. It's a great pattern. I saw it. I'm going to show it in a second.
Cool. All right. So here we have basically just a duplicate of that layer. And here it's just this star. Now in this case, I'm going to use our magic wand tool. So we'll just click on W for my magic wand tool. Let's bring our tolerance up a little bit.
You know that we always call it the tragic wand tool.
The tragic wand tool? That's good. I love the magic wand tool. Yeah, I use it.
You're one of the few. Then.
Dude.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's... The magic wand tool gets a bad rap. And there are a lot of circumstances when it's not the tool I would suggest using. But there are a lot of circumstances when it is a great tool.
Okay.
So, for instance, if you want to just select out just that star right there...
Maybe that's the quickest way. Yeah.
Magic wand tool. Boom, you're done. The tragic one. That's pretty good. So I just selected out. All right, let's go ahead. We'll go back to our layer here. We're just going to select out this star. Just that little guy right there. And I'm going to inverse my selection and then hit delete. Okay, so now we have just this little star as a selection there. Okay. Now with this, what I can do is I'm going to create a box right around that. All right, and on a new layer underneath that, I'm gonna fill that with white. So we basically we have this exact star here on a completely white background. Okay, so now that we have this as a selection, I can go to Edit and down to Define Brush Preset. All right, and we're gonna call this star. And you can see the brush that we're creating here is it's in the exact same shape there. So let's hit OK there. Now, let's deselect. I'm going to zoom out, and you can see it automatically selects that brush as well. So if I create a new layer here and paint with black, then I can paint with that exact star over and over and over again. So basically, you just need a clean white background, and then you want your star to be...
And if you have an art pen, can you like change the rotation of the star?
I don't know. You want to do it? You want to see if we can do that?
I don't. Do you have an art pen? Is that an art pen?
This is just a regular pen.
Okay. Yeah. But the art pen has a rotation as well?
I've never used one of those.
Okay.
Let's try it.
No, I don't think it'll work with this one.
It won't. But, okay.
But, you know, like so that every star is a little bit rotated?
Right. I know you can do that within the brush menu. I can show you guys how to do that.
Yeah, let's do that.
Is the art pen for the tablet?
Yeah.
I've never used one.
It's a bit thicker.
It's thicker? And what does it have? What is it?
Maybe that's an art. Is that an art pen? That's an art pen, right, Michael? No, maybe not. Is that the regular pen? It's slightly thicker, but it also has the control of the rotation.
Really?
So it's really cool with bristle brushes. You can actually oh, sorry, I'm clicking away.
That's cool. That's cool. I had no idea.
All right, so before we do that, I'm just gonna show the pattern that was created by. Let me just go back here into the chat. Let me just go, John Klungers. All right, so John Klungers, this is the pattern that you created with the exact same technique that I use with the phone, and boom, create the pattern, publish it, and share it with the world. Thanks, John.
All right.
Wine leaf.
Wine leaf, that's what it is?
Yep, that's what it's called.
Cool.
All right, thank you.
All right, so now that we have a brush that's basically the exact same shape as the star, let's go to, we're gonna go to Window and down to Brush here. Now, I don't have a fancy art brush here, but we can still change the rotation of our brush. So if I click on Shape Dynamics here, I can turn my angle jitter up. You can see how turning this up, now each time I click, it's going to be rotated. You can see this, the star is rotated each individual time. All right, so let's just undo that a couple times there. Now I can also click on size jitter. Okay, so we can have this be, some are going to be larger, some are going to be smaller as well. So we've got...
This is awesome.
It's cool, right? Yeah, it's like a totally random pattern, and it looks like it's part of the shirt, which is really cool too. You can bring your angle jitter up and down here, and let's see, I'm going to go to scattering as well. All right, so I'm going to start scattering these around, and as I paint on a new layer with my brush, we're going to scatter, but you can see in this case, there's so many, right? So what I want to do is I want to go to my brush tip shape and bring my spacing up, and that's just going to space them out a little bit better. All right, so there we go. We're basically painting.
You could be painting a whole constellation like that.
Oh, that'd be cool actually, to do it like with like artistic type stars like this instead
like
of real stars.
Document. Yeah, like.
That's a good idea. I like that idea. Cool, so we can see we've created a custom brush shape, and now we're painting around. And the fun thing about this is it doesn't look like we just use Photoshop and like click, 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 click. You know what I mean? It looks a lot more organic. It looks like a pattern that.
Yeah, I think randomness in digital art is super important.
I totally agree. Yeah, digital art, because it's with real art, the randomness is built in. You know, it's like every brush stroke is going to be different. Even if you don't want it to be. It's
like the eye sees patterns, sees repetition, and as soon as you see too much repetition, then
yeah, it's like that doesn't look real. So yeah, I recommend if you guys are using custom brushes, I would recommend turning on things like shape dynamics.
So SS Demon says, have I seen you on YouTube before?
Probably. This is a pretty good chance. If you guys are interested in learning Photoshop, check out our YouTube channel. It's Flern. You can see it here on my shirt. We've got over 800 free Photoshop and photography tutorials. So
just still laughing because
over 803. Yeah, and we just released a great product, Photoshop 101 through 301. There should be a link to it in the chat as well. It's over 21 hours of Photoshop, and yeah, if you typed in Photoshop into YouTube, there's a pretty good chance you've seen me. Just pretty much spent the last 5 years of my life making videos after videos. Yeah.
Aaron, any in-person workshop planned for 2017? And when you send images to print, are they using ProPhoto RGB or sRGB? Do you ever have issues using ProPhoto?
Okay, good question, Pierce.
That's a lot of questions.
All right, I don't really ever have any issues using ProPhoto. If you do, I recommend using RGB, Adobe RGB 1998. It's similar in color space. It's a little bit smaller, but it's totally fine. When I go to print, I do print in ProPhoto. I always want to print with the largest, the largest color space available. Printing is really just like, it's still difficult for me. It's every single time I send a print out, like I have a pretty decent, like it's a Epson 4900, which is like, I don't know, it's like this big. It'll print 17 by 22. We had a professional come and install it for us and get all the drivers. It seems like it'll work for a month, and then all of a sudden my prints are like way too dark or desaturated, and yeah, printing it's
hard.
Yeah, it's like you'd think it'd be like not hard, right? Like, okay, it looks like this here, make it look like that.
There, yeah, right.
Yeah, but
and that's the other thing, that the other, the controversy, that because people are still teaching like that before you go to professional printing, like turn your images to CMYK before you put them in the layout. All this stuff is like so 90s, like don't do that. RGB all the way. Like keep the biggest color spectrum as possible for your images as long as possible. Even when you put them into InDesign or Illustrator or even print out of Photoshop, the printer will be able to downsize the color spectrum for CMYK. Don't do it yourself. I mean, there's no reason at this time of age to do that. In the past, we had to do it because there was no printing process to actually get the RGB image and turn it into a CMYK image. But now this is not a problem anymore.
Yeah, the printer.
Yeah, I know there's still teachers out there who teach you have to turn it into CMYK before printing, like CMYK printing. Nah, no way. RGB all the way.
Yeah, and my suggestion when it comes to printing, probably a lot of people will disagree with me on this, but I would suggest.
Do you know the color sync utility?
No, I don't.
Okay, so can we go to my screen a second? All right, so basically you're talking about which RGB profile?
I use Pro Photo RGB.
I don't know if I have that here.
Also,
or sRGB, you said? No. No. Adobe RGB.
Adobe RGB 1998 is pretty good.
Okay, so basically this is how a color spectrum looks like in RGB. Now, if I keep that one and let me see if I'm gonna hold for comparison and put a CMYK. Where is my CMYK? Let me see if I have CMYK. Do you see CMYK anywhere? CMYK. So this is CMYK inside of the RGB.
What?
All right. So you see, you're losing like a ton of color information when you downsize to CMYK, and there's no way.
Do not do that.
Yeah, there's no way to come back to the original. So really, the only way to actually to work well is like to stay there with the RGB as long as you can, to have as many colors as you can inside of your image, and then let the machines do it for you.
Yeah. Can you do Adobe RGB versus sRGB?
Yes, I can. There you go.
All right.
And sRGB is already smaller than Adobe RGB.
Yeah, much smaller. That's when you guys are editing your images, I would suggest editing either in Pro Photo RGB or Adobe RGB 1998. And this is why, because if you're editing in sRGB, you're losing all of these colors from the start. And it's like taking a painter and removing part of their paints, right? It's like, oh, you don't get green anymore.
Yeah, or you don't get that green you like.
Yeah, you don't get the green you like. You only get this other green.
This other green.
Yeah.
So this is a nice way. This is the color sync utility that I use here to actually make these comparisons, and it's kind of cool to show this graph because it really makes you understand what you lose, right?
Yeah.
When you downsample your images to other color spectrums. All right.
Wow.
Let's
cool.
go on. Let's go back to.
All right.
Yeah, we were talking.
Well, I have one more suggestion when it comes to printing, because I know printing is like this big thing. My suggestion, and I've printed in many different ways, but my suggestion as of right now in my career is find a professional printer that you like, a service that you actually like. It can be a local service. It can be something that you find online, and send them your files, and then get them to do what's needed. Someone who spends all day every day converting files and printing, they're going to do a much better job of getting what's on your screen in physical form. So that would be my big suggestion there. And I know there are a lot of people who enjoy printing at home, and we have a decent printer at my studio, but again, it's expensive. I pay, probably $150 a month in ink. Just in ink. It's got like, 8+ cartridges or whatever. And the prints still don't turn out half the time. So maybe I'm just doing something totally wrong, but maybe. I'm like, anyway, cute, manly, yellow kittens.
Yes, that's Jan Erik. We know he's got something with kittens.
Oh, he does. Yeah. Okay.
His nickname before becoming Jan Erik, he was Kittens with Mittens. All right. Yeah. No. The reason why people are still teaching to go down to CMYK is basically because in the 90s, like last century, it was very important. for layout purposes that we couldn't lay out Photoshop documents like in InDesign now. So basically, designers were trained to turn their Photoshop documents into CMYK TIFFs or EPSs, depending on the content of the image, to then be put into Quark Express or early versions of InDesign, and that's the only reason. And there's still people out there thinking you have to save it as a TIFF and CMYK. No. Photoshop all the way. Okay, never. That's another thing. I never save it as something else. It's always Photoshop.
I like TIFFs.
What for?
What for? Well, so as a retoucher, mostly what I do these days is teach Photoshop, but I do also work with professional photographers as a photo retoucher. And when working with them, all the time, they're always telling me they want their images in TIFF. It's like, okay, this is industry standard.
Because you wouldn't give them a layered file.
Yeah, I wouldn't give them a layered file. And a TIFF, you can send a non-layered 16-bit uncompressed TIFF, and that's usually what they want to deliver to their clients. So it's what I hear from people I work with in the industry is TIFF is standard, has to be TIFF. So I've started using TIFF.
Yeah. But still, there is nothing wrong with Photoshop.
No, there's nothing wrong with Photoshop.
Because the exact same thing that you have in the TIFF, and even more information you have in the Photoshop document. This is pretty recent, especially in advertising agencies.
Okay.
There's still like older art directors and art production artists that like think like they have their systems in place.
Right.
And but there's nothing wrong in placing a Photoshop file in an InDesign document now.
Okay.
And the really cool thing in InDesign is that you can turn layers on and off. Photoshop layers on and off inside of InDesign.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So basically, maybe you can put a black and white filter, or another filter, like a filter that makes a vignette or something. And then the designer can always decide at the last minute if it's a Photoshop file, I want it without the vignette. So
cool.
Turn off the vignette layer off, or turn on the grayscale, filter, or it's pretty cool workflows.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So Photoshop all the way.
That's my thinking.
Photoshop all the way. Cool. All right. Well, that was a good tip that led us on.
Like a completely like
a little bit of a tangent there.
Total tangent. Yeah.
All right. All right. So that was our custom brushes. And my last tip of the day for you, those of you guys who were just joining us, we've done a few tips. First was load your files into a stack. Use the rubber band mode in your pen tool. Turn on the overlay feature within the clone source. Use custom brushes and play around with the brush menu. And my last tip is apply image. All right, so we'll show you guys how to use apply image because it's got a couple of different uses and they're both really, really powerful. Okay, so let's say we did have, in this case, we have our subject here, okay? And
just a question about monitors here. Sorry,
yeah,
I'm
go ahead.
you because that's interesting. JCB76 says, but the MacBook and iMac's display can't match a ProPhoto or Adobe RGB spaces. They just neatly match sRGB. So you can't see the real colors of your images anyway, right? So I think if you are in the business of like really like needing to see the real true colors, then you also invest in a monitor that can do it.
Right. Yeah, a decent external display. And there are monitors out there that they're relatively expensive.
Yeah.
I have a few friends who have like I actually edit on an iMac. I'm like but I do have a few friends who've got really nice expensive monitors and they prefer to work on those as well. So
that's another question that will come up. Do you calibrate your monitor?
I should probably calibrate it.
Same me. Like
I don't really. Yeah, it's funny. I think I've run calibration software and used hardware. Like I've used the Spider Pro 3 or whatever. And what it gave me was like so similar to what it was like out of the box that I was like, probably just fine. I mean, if you guys are
here, I know that there's people out there who are super like fixated on like getting the monitor really like But I don't know. I was never part of that gang.
I think for some work it's important, right? If you're representing a brand and you need to retouch a product to fit certain colors of the brand, you know, like if I'm taking pictures of a Budweiser and I need to make sure that the red is, you know, represented properly and, you know, something like that. I think that makes a lot of sense if it needs to be exact. I think a lot of the times I usually go in and change colors anyway. You know, it's like I'm going in there and messing around to what looks good. You know, a lot of the time the end output won't be like necessarily that true to life, but it'll, you know, maybe have a little bit more of an artistic spin on it or whatever it is. Yeah.
All right, back to your tip.
All right, I'm gonna go back to my tip. So, apply image. So I like apply image a lot. There are two big uses for apply image. I'm gonna show you guys how to use both of those. So let's say here that we have a new layer. So I've got a new layer and we're just gonna use the same exact brush. I'm gonna paint some more stars here on our, there we go. Let's just paint some more stars here on our cool jacket. All right. So we use, and you know what, I'm gonna hit X, so now we're gonna paint with white, and I'm gonna paint some right over there as well. And these are just being placed randomly because I've got those settings in my brush menu right now. Okay, so I just placed all those brushes randomly. Now, a lot of the time, let's say I wanted to like liquefy this layer or, you know, run something that's only going to be, that I can only do on a new layer. Like maybe I wanted to use the patch tool or something like that I can't do on a blank layer. What you can do is merge basically everything that you see into one layer. Now, this is, it's not the same as doing a smart object. It is like more destructive technically, but sometimes you just need to get like everything you see onto one layer. It happens during, you know, regular workflow in Photoshop. So my suggestion would be go ahead and create a new layer, go to image and down to apply image. And basically what this does is it applies everything that it sees in Photoshop to the current layer that you're on. Okay, so you can choose your source here. In this case, I'm choosing the source of this document here. We're choosing our layer to be merged. Now, this is cool too because you can actually apply, like if I wanted to only apply layer 3 onto my current layer, I can do that as well. So in this case, we're doing merged, which means it's everything that I see, okay? Now, we're also choosing our blending mode to be, in this case, it's multiply. It's set to multiply by default. So in this case, it's going to multiply, but it was on a blank layer. So normal would totally work as well. So you can see normal is going to work there and we can work on our opacity as well. So I'm gonna hit okay there. So again, we're using layer merge. So it's everything we see, okay? It's on our normal blending mode and opacity is 100. So I'm gonna hit okay there. And zooming out, now if I use my move tool, this layer you can see is a direct copy of everything that I have in Photoshop. So if I wanted to use a liquefy tool or something like that on this layer, I can do that as I have everything visible just on this layer. Now, this is much different from like a merge visible because I still have these layers underneath, right? Like these layers,
in case you need them.
In case you need them, in case you want to go back to them. Oftentimes what I'll do is I'll apply the image on a new layer. I'll make an adjustment to just like part of the image. And then I'll go back and just mask out just the part, right?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so you have, for instance, I don't need this to be visible everywhere. Let's just say I want this layer to only be visible. Let's just make, there we go, back to my brush. Let's say this layer I only want to be visible where these stars are. So I'll just make it visible where the stars are, okay? So now this layer is just visible where the stars are. So if I wanted to go back to my original layer and start editing her face or whatever like that, I'll be able to see through it. So if you have an apply image layer, keep in mind it's totally opaque.
Yep.
You won't be able to see through it. So if you go start editing layers underneath it, you're not gonna see what you're doing unless you use a layer mask. All right, so that's one use of the apply image. Now I'm gonna show you guys a different use of the apply image, and this is really cool as well. So let's go ahead here. I'm gonna create a new curves adjustment layer. All right, so Williams Santos Retouching says Shift Control Alt E doesn't work for this. Yeah, that's the keyboard shortcut for basically the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah. The reason I don't recommend using that keyboard shortcut anymore, I used to say use that keyboard shortcut and it's totally fine. It just doesn't work for everyone. You have to create a new layer before you do it. If you're on like an invisible layer, for instance, and I try hitting Shift Control Alt E, it's not going to do anything. So there are just some examples where I would just recommend going to Apply Image. All right. Good question though. Okay, so the next use of Apply Image, let's go ahead. I'm going to go to Layer, down to New Adjustment Layer, and I'm going to go to Curves. All right, let's hit OK there, and I'm going to bring my curves up just a bit.
So it's a curves day today.
Oh, it's a curve.
Okay.
Yeah, yesterday we just said the difference between curves and levels, and I was like, yeah, just kind of whatever I feel like that morning. Yeah, it's a curves day today. All right, so we've got our curves adjustment layer here. Okay, now you can see it's visible everywhere in the image. Now, the cool thing about Apply Image is you can use it on a regular layer and it applies in full color. You can also use it on a layer mask, okay? And basically it just takes a snapshot of your image and puts it on your layer mask. And for something like a curves adjustment layer, you get a very beautiful detailed light and dark. So for instance, if I want this curves adjustment layer to only be visible in the shadows of my image, I can use Apply Image for that. So let's show you guys how that works. We're gonna, again, I'm on my curves adjustment layer, clicked on the layer mask. We're gonna go to Image and to Apply Image, okay? And now here you can see I've got a snapshot of my image here on the layer mask. We can choose which layer we want. So in this case, we can choose Merged, or I can go to this layer right here underneath it, okay? Now we've got a normal blending mode, and I can click on invert if I want to as well. So here we have, this is a regular, set to regular blending mode, which anything that's dark in your image is going to be dark on your layer mask. Anything that's light is going to be light on your layer mask. So in this case, I've got a curves adjustment layer that's making my image brighter, right? And then I just applied the image to the layer mask, which makes it only visible in the light areas. So in this case, what's going on here is I'm making just the light areas lighter. Now, oftentimes, I want to bring my shadows brighter, but I want to leave my highlights where they are, you know, because it happens all the time. If you just use a curves adjustment layer to bring up the brightness of your image as a whole, you're going to start to blow out your highlights, right? So I want to just make my shadows a little bit brighter. So we're going to click on this invert icon. Okay, and now we've got the opposite happening. So what's going on in my layer mask here is that anything that is dark in my image is going to be applied this curves adjustment layer, and anything that's light is not. So let's hit OK there, and you can do this with any adjustment layer, any layer mask. So let's hold Alt or Option and click on my layer mask so you can see this is what our layer mask looks like. Oh, wow. It's that super freaky image we talked about yesterday.
Yeah, that's the nightmare.
Yeah, the nightmare image. But you can see, looking at this image, that the lighter areas here, like this shadow area here, and you know, these areas are the areas that are going to be visible on this layer mask. Okay, now you can turn this off and on, and you can see all we've done is made our shadows brighter, which is pretty cool. Now you can also do this, you can run a levels adjustment here on your actual layer mask, or you can just do this again if you want a little bit more subtle of an effect. On your layer mask, go to Image and Apply Image. Okay, we're gonna click on Invert here, and I'm gonna click on our, there we go, let's go back to Merged. All right, and hit OK. And you can see here's a little preview. It's just gonna make it a little bit more subtle. So let's hit OK there. All right, and turning this off and on, now you can see we just brought up the brightness of our image. And maybe we don't need this to be visible everywhere. So let's say we want it to just be visible like on our face and hands. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna group this layer with itself. I'm gonna put a black layer mask on it, and then I'm gonna use my brush tool to just paint right over top of her face, this area here, and just kind of like bring up, there we go, bring up the shadow levels in just this area. Maybe this as well, so it looks a little bit more natural. All right, there we go. Because oftentimes in retouching, especially with faces, you don't want the the shadows to be too dark. I mean, sometimes you do for effect and whatnot, but oftentimes just lightening up the shadows is really nice. And the great thing about doing it in this way is that it's not going to affect the highlights. So you can bring up the shadows in brightness without affecting the highlights at all.
Like selective operations there.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a very clean layer mask also because it's applied directly from your image, which I think is.
There's one question, please. It's like a lot of questions. It's about, like, is there any tips, like actually preparing a photo for print? But basically, yeah, I mean, I don't think there is any tips that, that can help printing better. Like, I think it all depends on the printer in the end.
Yeah, it definitely depends on the printer. Again, my suggestion would be, find a printing service either locally or online that you know and trust. My one thing that I would recommend doing actually is there's actually an elaboration there. I guess what I'm looking for is like the workflow before you start editing a picture and knowing that it will go on a wall. Beside calibrating, what other info I need to take into consideration? Yeah, my big suggestion there would be to edit in the large with the most amount of information you can. So be sure you're editing in 16-bit, and be sure you're using a color space like Adobe RGB 1998 or ProPhoto RGB. So just working with the most possible color that you can. I find that a lot of the time when I print, my images tend to turn out a bit dark. So usually before I send them to the printer, I'll just use like a curves or levels adjustment layer and just bring up my shadows just a little bit brighter, and that seems to help. Another thing that I'll do, and I'll just give you guys a little quick preview of this now. Let's just zoom out here a little bit. I'm going to take this layer here. We're going to right click and I'm going to say duplicate layer, okay, to a new document here. All right, there we go. And now we've got this layer on a new document. We're going to just create like a test print. So this can be really good because you won't have to waste as much ink, and you should be able to get a good idea of what you're actually going to be doing. So we're going to say 8.5 by 11. So this is going to be just a test print. All right, we're going to bring this layer over. I'm going to convert it to a smart object, and we're going to use our transform and go ahead and make it a little bit smaller there. All right, something like this. Oh, 1 second here. All right, let's just shrink that down just a little bit. Okay, so what I would suggest doing here is, so I've created a document here that's 8.5 by 11 inches, and I've got my image here on my document. And what we can do is create a test print, all right, that basically I can create multiple copies of my image. Let's just bring that right here. Create multiple copies of my image. I'll just put that in the center for this example. And on each one of these copies, I can do something slightly different. So let's start off with this top layer here. That's going to be normal. This next layer here, I'm going to hit Controller Command M, which is the keyboard shortcut for our levels. Okay, we'll just bring that a little bit brighter. There we go. Let's bring this one, Controller Command M for our levels again. This time I'm going to bring up my black point just a little bit here. All right. Controller Command U for our hue saturation. And this one I'll try like bringing up my saturation a little bit. All right. Controller Command U. I'll try bringing my saturation down a little bit on this one. And then this one I'm going to go to my color balance. So let's go to layer down to image adjustments and over to color balance. In this one I may say, you know what, let's a little bit less red in this image and maybe a little bit more yellow, and hit OK there. And then what you can do is, if you have a printer at your house, or if you send this off, it's going to take a little bit more time, but you can send this out, and on one sheet of paper you've got 6 different prints, and each of them is small. You're not going to be using a ton of ink, right? And that way you can see, basically you're just going to see it in person, and you can be like, okay, that one looks the best. And from there, just make sure you apply the exact same settings on your full size image and then send that out to print. And that way you already know what you're gonna get, and you know you like it.
Like trial and error, like trial on no.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Or if you do print out an image and it's, let's say, too dark, and you're like, oh, it's just too dark. I have to lighten it up, but you don't know how much. So maybe create a page like this that has like 6 different levels of lightening, and maybe add some saturation or whatever.
Somebody mentioned also that most printer manufacturers also provide like profiles that you can use.
Yes.
But it all makes it also complicated, I think.
I completely agree. Yeah, I completely agree. It's I use the printer profile from
from your printer, but it's
from my printer, and it's still like it's amazing. It's fine for like a month, and then I'll go to print one day, and I'm like, this looks horrible. I didn't change anything. What happened? I feel like an idiot.
I also guess it also depends much on the type of image, because like when I'm thinking about a very dark image, like the image that you had showed me yesterday was the teddy bear.
Oh yeah.
Very dark.
Very dark. Yes.
Dark, and an image like this where it's much lighter, and I think sending them to the printer will yield different results.
Yeah, I completely agree. So yeah, it's one of those things. Doing these test pages, I think, is it's a good way to start. And then take your time and realize that pretty much everyone has trouble printing.
Oh yeah.
So and it's understandable. You're going from a backlit screen, to a printed piece of paper, and with that you have many different types of ink, many different types of paper, and it kind of just is a trial and error type of thing.
Yeah, and when it comes to professional printing, like when you have to print leaflets, or maybe the images go into an art book or things like that, there you really have to have a good relationship with your printer, and the printer,
right? Yeah.
Who knows their job, who's probably been doing it for a long time. And these persons have a lot of good ideas and feedback on how to best prepare the images or the layouts or whatever for their specific printers, because that also because now we're talking about desktop printers like your Epson thing, but of course the same goes for commercial printing. All different printers have the big machines, they have different kinds of output.
Yeah, totally, completely. So good questions. Is it weird if I take a very quick bathroom break?
Oh, dude, go.
I'm like kind of been holding it until these 5 tips are done, and I'm
like getting nervous.
I'm like, I gotta get out of here.
All right, of course you can. I'll be here in the chat.
Field some questions. I'll answer when I get back.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks, guys. I'll be quick.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe we can put like Aaron is on on bathroom duty. Okay. Let me go here into the questions. Yeah, the printer profiles and paper profiles, of course. That's also very important, because if you just print on like normal printer paper, that the one that comes out of your black and white toner printer, you yield a certain result. You can get expensive photo paper, and it will have other results. Yeah, if you're printing professionally, doing monitor and printer calibration is your best bet. Yeah, it can be. The calibration just ensures that what you see is actually based. It's a good representation of the profile you're using. One thing that that the Adobe applications also do is like they sync the profiles across the applications, so to make sure that an image that you're looking at in Photoshop looks the same when you import it in InDesign or Illustrator, etc. So yeah, it's very, very complex, and I think we could do like a whole day just about color and color calibration and color profiles, etc. So one question, please. Thank you, Aaron. I know you're quite busy. He's very busy right now. Let's see. Printing tutorial on YouTube. I'll ask Aaron when he gets back. He's back. All right, he's back. So yeah, one question please is asking, it would be cool maybe a little tutorial about printing, but like we're saying, it's got so many different answers based on so many technologies, based on so many paper types, on so many ink types that there's not one answer that fits all, I think.
My prediction is that just like we've seen with Uber and all these other little problems in our life, there's going to be some brilliant people, probably from Canada, who are just going to create a little device or a piece of software that's just going to make everything work, and then it's going to be wonderful. But until then, I think that it's just going to be a pain.
And it's going to cost to have a good print.
Oh yeah, for sure. Unless they get a huge amount of funding and make it open source and figure out how to target 300 million people. But
V. Vinny says you can probably do a whole month about color. Yes, that's right. We can do this. This is the type of thing that it's like Pandora's box, and once you open it, we've been talking about color for what now? A long time.
A long time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot to go through there. But again, my big suggestion is it kind of is a trial and error type of thing. So if you just kind of know that going in and you accept it and you say, okay, trial and error, I'll do some test prints, and just know that I'm going to burn a little bit of money and time creating things that just don't print right, and keep altering your image till you get the print right, and then print many copies if you can.
Thank you, Blanca Dubon. That's what we're trying to do. Give good tips. And Aaron just gave you 5 very good tips for the day.
Yeah, thanks, guys. So we'll go summarize those real quick. Thank you for everyone for being...
Mr. Viksha is in Canada. Okay, so you work on that special program, okay?
Yeah, go for it. All right, so my suggestions here are load files into Stack, use the rubber band mode in your pen tool, the clone source dialog, you can hit that show overlay button on the clone source dialog, and custom brushes, creating your own custom brushes and using the brush menu, and also apply image, and that you can use that to create basically a stamp visible layer, and you can also use it to adjust the layer mask on something like a curves adjustment layer.
That's right.
Yeah, so
awesome.
Those are my 5 tips.
5 tips for today before we move on to actually producing an image.
Actually doing something in Photoshop. Yeah.
I love these tips. I think our followers here on Twitch love these tips as well, because they allow us to go on tangents.
Yeah.
They allow us to to investigate. Look at the stuff that you can do with a mobile device and create a brush. And
it's cool.
Pattern and stuff.
Yeah, I'm into it, man. Okay, do you guys want to get into editing? Editing an image?
Yeah. A drum kit falls off a cliff. Tis. All right. Let's see.
I heard that joke yesterday.
Yeah, right. But that's Jan Erik.
Different. He said it yesterday too?
Yeah, I think he said it yesterday.
Okay.
And I always tell Jan Erik, you're being so facetious. I think Jan Erik is from the Nordic countries, if I'm not mistaken. Like something like Norway, right?
Norway.
Did you ever go to Norway?
I have been to Norway. Yeah.
You like it?
I love Norway.
Did you go to Oslo?
Yeah, I was in Oslo.
Bergen?
Just Oslo. I was there for one day. Believe it or not. It was a great day. I studied abroad in college. I lived in Sweden, in Lund, Sweden, in the south end. And a few friends of mine and I took it was like a ferry. It was like a cruise, but it was not fancy at all. To Oslo, it was like a couple day. We went through the fjords and
nice.
Yeah, we got like super wasted on the cruise ship.
That's what you do on a ferry boat.
Yeah. And then we got up at like 7 in the morning, and they're like, "All right, get off. You got like 6 hours in Oslo." And I was drunk the entire time I was in Oslo, so I can say that I've never been to Norway sober.
I've been to Oslo, but I haven't seen it.
I had a great time. Yeah.
Jan Erik was born in Bergen, okay, and now lives in Oslo. Yeah.
All right.
I was talking to Jan Erik. I so wish I could, find some time this summer, like maybe do a bicycle tour in the fjords and stuff like that.
Whoa. Yeah, that sounds amazing.
All right. So I think people are excited. People want to go actually, into some compositing here. Aaron was in Mexico this whole time. Yes.
Yeah.
Posting fancy drinks and beaches.
I just got back from Mexico.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, fun place.
All right, where did you go?
I was in Puerto Vallarta.
Huh.
Yeah. I know people who've spent some time there, so
Okay.
I got to like plug into the local scene.
All
and,
right.
Yeah, it was it was a
Okay.
good time.
Good time, yeah.
Yeah. Where do I live? I live in Chicago. So shout out to all my Chicago friends out there.
Yep.
All right. Cool. Let's
The
go
Windy
ahead.
City.
The Windy City, exactly, which is named because of the politics of the city, not because of the weather.
Not of the wind.
Yeah,
it's
not
the wind. Okay.
not from the actual wind. It's because the politics there. It's a very corrupt city.
Okay.
It's like outwardly corrupt, and I guess the politicians, a lot of wind comes out of their mouth. But, it's,
really? That's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. The Windy City has nothing to do with the wind.
yeah,
It's just about the wind that comes out of politicians' mouths.
yeah. So
Awesome.
from what I've heard, anyway. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and start off with our first edit of the day. I'm gonna hit Controller Command O. We're gonna go ahead and start off by opening here, and here in day 2. What we're going to do is start off with a DNG file. This is a digital negative, Adobe digital negative file. And we're going to hit open. And it's going to run through our Adobe Camera Raw dialog. Now, if you guys are using Lightroom to process your raw photos, basically, if I'm not mistaken, it's the same software, right?
Yes.
Like
the same module.
the same module.
Yes.
Inside of Lightroom, it's
the
using
Camera
Adobe
Raw
Camera
mod.
Raw.
Yeah, yeah.
Inside of Photoshop, it's using Adobe Camera
Inside
Raw.
of Bridge, it's using Camera Raw.
Right. So they're all accessing the same software basically, and you have to go through a raw processor before you get into Photoshop.
Yes.
Which is nice too, because you can make edits to your actual raw file. They're going to be totally non-destructive, and you'll always be able to undo those changes and whatnot. So let's jump in. We're going to show you how to just work with the Camera Raw dialog real quick here, and then
I
we're
love
going
the
to
Camera Raw filter in Photoshop. Do you use that ever?
no,
Yeah.
just go like filter. It basically brings up the same thing again, right?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
But as a filter,
As a filter.
non-destructively on a layer, for example.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
We can try it
that.
later.
Yeah, we'll try that later.
One thing is for sure, we have to process that image in Adobe Camera Raw to actually open it in Photoshop.
To open it in Photoshop.
Photoshop can't open a raw file.
Right. Right. Okay. So this is a great example here. We're gonna kind of talk through the workflow, and we're gonna zoom this in a little bit. And now everyone is a little bit different when it comes to raw processing. Generally, the things that I do in in Adobe Camera Raw, usually I'll work with my exposure level. So in this case, our highlights are just a little bit bright, so I'm going to pull my highlights down just a little bit here. Okay, our shadows are a little bit dark, so I'm going to pull my shadows up a little bit. And generally, I usually will. Most of the time, it seems like I'm bringing my shadow level lighter a little bit in Camera Raw. You do have options here for clarity. It depends on what type of image you're doing. Like a sports type portrait, I would recommend bringing your clarity up. A retouching image like this, I would recommend bringing your clarity a little farther down. So we're going to drag that up just a tiny bit here, and that's going to look really nice on areas like the eyes and the lips. Okay, vibrance we're going to bring up because in this case we got some really interesting colors going on in our image. Okay, now I'm also going to click here on our lens corrections. I want to make sure we remove chromatic aberration, not a whole bunch here, and enable profile corrections. It's going to automatically load in our profile here. You can see this was taken using a 24 to 105 f4. So it's going to correct for distortion, and it's going to correct for vignetting as well, which I think is really cool. Now sharpening, I would suggest you got to be really careful with sharpening in Lightroom. Most of the time I don't really do sharpening, in Lightroom or in Camera Raw. If you need to sharpen certain areas, you can use like the brush tool to sharpen like just the eyes, for instance. But I find that the more sharpening that I do, it tends to make skin look bad. So usually when I'm working in either Camera Raw or Lightroom, I won't sharpen the entire image. I'll use a brush to just sharpen just areas like the eyes as well. All right, that looks pretty good. So now we're gonna take a look at here at the bottom. We've got a few color settings here. So you can see this is where we're gonna be with our settings for bringing our image in from Camera Raw into Photoshop here. we're going to click here, and I'm going to say, you know what? I don't want it to be in Adobe RGB 1998. I'm going to click on Pro Photo. That's the color space that I prefer. So we're going to do Pro Photo RGB, and I want to make sure I'm editing this in 16 bits per channel. So again, we always want to edit in the most amount of information possible, and then, you know, when you save it out to Facebook or whatever, you can compress the heck out of it and stuff like that. But for editing, you want to make sure you're doing it in the most, using the most information you can. Okay, so we're gonna hit OK there. So now you can see we've got Pro Photo RGB 16-bit, and there's our size of our image. Now let's go ahead and hit Open here, and it's gonna open up our image using the same. Now, if you are bringing your image in as a Pro Photo RGB, let's go to Edit and down to our color settings here. Okay, so you want to make sure that your color space you're working with matches your image. Okay, so my image here is a Pro Photo RGB color space. So I want to make sure my working space here in Photoshop is also Pro Photo RGB, because you're just gonna run into a lot of mistakes, a lot of issues if you're working with a different color space than your image is. Okay, so now we see our working space is Pro Photo RGB. Let's go here. I'm gonna go to Edit, and then down to Convert to Profile, just to make sure that you can see the profile of our image here is Pro Photo RGB. So now our image is in the exact same color space as our workspace. Okay, and now we're ready to go. And this is exactly how I would start editing my images in Photoshop. All right, now I got a quick tip for you guys, and this has to do with like portraits. It's basically like a very quick, easy, kind of like cheating way of retouching, but it's kind of fun. So we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna open up the exact same file here. So we're just gonna click on the same file. It's a DNG file. It's the exact same thing. Okay. Now in this case, we're going to go here. I'm gonna go to Reset Camera Raw. Okay, so everything is reset here. Now I'm gonna go ahead and turn on my lens correction here, because I want it to be the same size. But here in my basic adjustments, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring the clarity down. All right. And bringing the clarity down, let's just zoom in so you guys can actually see this. This is like a very, there we go. So it's like a very kind of cheating way to retouch skin. So bringing my clarity down, something just like that. All right, we're gonna hit Open Image. Now we've got all the same settings there. So we're gonna hit Open Image. Now I've got two different versions of the same image. Okay, now obviously this as a whole doesn't look good, right? We can see that obviously you don't want it to look like that. But what we can do is we can hit Shift and click and drag from one image to another. So now we have two different layers, okay? We have our, here we go. We have our first layer is a normal layer, and this is with our clarity brought way down. So I'm gonna hit F for full screen, and we're gonna zoom in. Okay, and I'm gonna hold Alt or Option and click on my layer mask here, just making the layer mask for the clarity layer invisible there. Okay, and then basically I'm just gonna paint white on my layer mask over top of, there we go, over top of my layer. And because I brought my clarity way down, it reduces detail in like skin. So you still see the pores, they're just kind of like reduced. It's gonna reduce the detail in the skin pores. There we go, kind of just paint this around, la 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 la. And you wanna make sure you're staying, staying away from areas like the mouth, you know, because if you paint over the mouth, you're going to start to get some really weird effects there. So make sure you're staying away from areas like the mouth and fine details like the eyes, because it's just going to blur those out and make them look absolutely horrible. But this is going to really do a nice job and a quick job too. A lot of people don't want to spend a lot of time retouching, and I can totally understand that. It's going to do a very quick job, basically just kind of like reducing the amount of skin detail in your image. And then you can see already it's made quite a big difference. And my suggestion here would be just to lower the opacity of that layer. So you're not, you know, you don't want this to be 100% visible, but it's a good way to just like start off. Zooming in back again, you can see making this invisible and visible again. It just kind of takes some of the edge out of the skin detail. Yeah. Yeah, just doing that can make a real difference in an image.
Let's try with the camera raw filter for a second. Just take
cool.
the lower, just take the original.
Yep. Duplicate that.
Yeah, and just apply the camera raw filter.
All right, cool. So we'll go to filter, down to camera raw.
Yep.
Bum, 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 bum. Camera raw filter. All right, and here we're going to do the same.
Yeah, do the same thing.
Lower the clarity. Okay, and hit OK.
Okay. And then you make the but because because it's not a why didn't it apply it as a smart object? Oh, maybe apply it as a smart object.
Okay, cool. So
as a smart filter, but it should be applied automatically as a smart filter. Let's see. So I'm converting this to a smart object now. Okay.
So we've got our background copy as a smart object. We're going to go to filter and down to camera raw filter. We're going to do the same thing, and I'll bring my clarity down and hit OK.
Okay, and now you see, because it's a smart filter, you have the alpha channel.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is that you can always go back into the filter.
That's
and
true.
Change the clarity. And,
I like that actually. Yeah.
It's actually, it's
That's
a
nice.
bit less destructive, right?
It is less destructive. Yeah, you can always edit it over and over again. So yeah, I like that. Nice tip.
Or you can paint the clarity right in the filter.
Oh yeah, using one of the
If you let's take the smart object. Let's just double click again on the camera raw filter.
Yep.
Reopen it. Okay, let's zoom in.
All right.
And then now use the brush.
So we're gonna use our brush, which is not the spot removal, the adjustment brush. Yes.
The adjustment brush, and then use that to actually paint in the
clarity.
The
We're gonna bring that down. All right. Let's just make our brush a little bit smaller.
No.
I think it's doing it.
Oh, it's doing it. Yep.
Yeah. It's doing. I'm being a little bit sloppy here.
And it's
but
probably it's probably also creating the mask for that, right? Right as you're doing it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Cool. I like that. Good tip. Huh. Look at that. Learning something every day with you guys.
But like William Santos retouching says, Aaron, there is so many ways of retouching people, so many different ways.
Yeah.
And that's right. And it always depends on the one you feel more comfortable with. But the question is, in your opinion, using easy ways can be good for your workflow, but bad for the quality, or just doesn't matter? The easiest is best?
Yeah, I think that it depends on the final image. If you're using, if you just run a Gaussian blur on someone, and it looks bad, then that's obviously bad for your image. If you find a technique that you can do quickly and easily, then I wouldn't say there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
There are many, many different ways you can do retouching in pretty much everything in Photoshop. So if you find a method that works for you, I would recommend going for that method, and every now and then try to do something new. And we have Fat Tail says it depends on the job you're retouching for. Some jobs require more or less retouching, which is exactly right.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you don't really want to retouch so much. A gritty sports portrait, for instance, you don't want them to have like super smooth, nice, beautiful skin. It just wouldn't make any sense. If you're retouching for like a makeup company or whatever, then retouch it. So it totally depends on.
Matt Bond Photos, 3:30 a.m. in Australia, and he's still here with us.
Whoa!
Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt Bond Photo was here with us yesterday as well.
Good to have you back, Matt Bond. All right. So anyway, just a quick tip for using clarity to do some like light retouching. Again, it's not, I wouldn't suggest using that at 100% opacity, but just for something light and quick, I think it does work pretty well there. Okay, cool. So the next thing we're going to show you guys is a little bit of dodging and burning. And again, there are a lot of ways to dodge and burn in Photoshop. There's if you guys have a method that works well for you, then go for it. Use that method. I'm going to be using this method, and I think you guys will like it. So
it's like dodging and burning, right?
Yeah, exactly, like the old school.
Yeah. I used to do it in my photographs.
Yeah. I actually got started in photography like when digital was like roaring already.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
All
my
right. So
first.
you never did manual?
Never. No, I wish I did though. Like that part of the process. I wish that and obviously I still can if I want to. But yeah.
It's actually the tools in Photoshop have actually the shape. The dodge and burn tools actually have the shape of the tools you would use. Okay, so basically the dodge tool would be like a piece of like a material that you would put between the light.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that some places don't get too much light, so you actually darken the places.
Oh, cool.
Okay, so it was actually a round thing, but with a stick that you could actually move in the areas you want it to be warm. And the burn tool actually was you would actually have something with a hole where you could actually direct the light on the photo and make the light come out in the photograph.
Cool.
So yeah.
Oh, I never knew that.
Yeah. So you see a little hand, a little round thing, and most people don't even know what these are, but
yeah,
they're
I had no
actually
idea.
true representations of dodging and burning. History lessons with Rufus Deichler.
Cool. I dig it. So yeah, if you guys are using the dodge tool and the burn tool in Photoshop, and it works for you, go ahead. I personally don't use the dodge tool and the burn tool. They're kind of destructive, and I just don't use them.
Last century, yeah.
Yeah, I just don't use them. But obviously, there's a million ways to do things, in Photoshop. Okay, so what we're gonna do, I'm gonna show you guys another interesting way to dodge and burn. So I'm gonna create an adjustment layer. We're gonna go to a curves adjustment layer. I'm in a curves mood today. Okay, and we're gonna start off with our dodging. So I'm gonna take my midpoint here, and we're just gonna drag it up right to about there. I'm gonna kind of overdo it here. All right, so then again, we're just using a curves adjustment layer and bringing the curve right up. Now on my layer mask, I'm gonna invert it. So we're gonna hit Control or Command I. And now I wanna choose the areas that I actually wanna make brighter. So we're just gonna start painting, right now I'm just using a soft edge brush. Let's go ahead and make it a little bit larger. And I'm using a really low flow. I just wanna use a flow that I can kind of like build my effect up over and over. And just, kind of taking a look at the image, and anywhere that's a little bit too dark, I just want to like lighten it up a little bit. Basically, I'm just painting in that area. So I'm going to overdo it a little bit just so you guys can kind of get an idea of the process and get an idea of what you can do if you do overdo this effect a little bit.
And I think one of the key things also for retouching, especially humans, is to have a good understanding of anatomy.
Yeah.
Know how cheekbones work, or how shadow and lights work on a human body.
Yeah, I completely agree. So, for that you can study strangers. Just if you walk up to a stranger, just stare at them in the face. And
okay.
say it's okay, I'm doing this for retouching purposes. Yeah. Or you can look at photos. One or the other. One or the other. All right. So in this case, we just brightened up some of those areas. Now, also, the problem with this method is that it's brightening up some of the areas, but it's brightening up the brights as well as the darks. So if I want this layer to only affect the darker areas of the photo, what I'm gonna do is we're gonna use this as, I'm gonna make a layer invisible real quick. Here, we're gonna make a new layer, and I'm gonna go to Image and then Apply Image on that. Okay, so we've just got a merged layer here, layer 1. It's basically just a copy of everything we see. Okay, now we're gonna turn this curves adjustment layer back on, and here on our layer mask, we can use the Apply Image on the layer mask. So again, we're dodging these areas of the image. We're dodging the darker parts, but because I'm just using a brush tool, it's also showing up all the light parts. So I want a way to kind of refine this a little bit. So clicking here on my layer mask, we're gonna go to Image and down to Apply Image. Okay, now here on our layer, I'm gonna choose layer 1. So we're gonna go to layer 1 because that's the copy that I just made of this layer here. And I'm gonna click on the invert icon on my layer 1. And basically what this is gonna do is it's gonna, oh, you know what? Sorry, I'm doing this on this layer. exact on this layer mask.
Ooh, that's the horror movie again.
Yeah, there's the horror movie. So we're gonna go to image, down to apply image. Okay, and then I wanna make sure I have my layer mode set to multiply, and then we can go ahead and invert this. Okay, so basically what this is doing is it's making sure that we're only brightening up the darker areas of the photo. So again, with dodging and burning, a lot of the time you want to make the darks a little bit lighter, and sometimes you want to make the lights a little bit darker, but you want to make sure it blends into the actual image itself. So by applying the image onto the layer mask here, you can see I'm using a multiply blend mode. The layer that I'm using, we're going to use layer 1. Okay, so that's basically just a stamp visible of everything we see. Okay, and then I'm going to hit OK here. So now it may be a little bit confusing, but basically if you look at the image, you can see, okay, now it's brightening the dark areas just where I painted, okay, but it's staying away from the light areas. So if I hold Alt or Option and click on my layer mask, you can see what it looks like now. So the areas that I painted originally, it's visible there, okay, but it's hiding from the light areas, okay? So it's only gonna be visible here in the dark areas. So basically what I'm doing is, there we go, I am just dodging the dark areas in the image, which I think is really cool. All right.
Blend if everywhere.
Yeah, and you can use blend if for this as well, but I would actually suggest using apply image instead of blend if, because it's kind of tough to explain, but apply image it'll just do a better job. I'll kind of just show you. I'll show you the difference between the two. Apply image tends to be, it has a lot more detail in the layer mask than blend if will. So we'll just do this in two different ways here. One of these layers, let's just double click on this. We're going to use apply image here. We're going to use blend if on this layer. So I'm going to tell this to not be visible from the light areas. All right, there we go. Now we can get something that looks like this. And when you use blend if, and I love blend if, but you do get something that looks like this where you can see it doesn't look quite natural, right? So that's using blend if. Now if you use the same exact copy, that I basically copied that curves adjustment layer, we're going to go to image and then down to apply image. Okay, and then we're going to hit OK there. So basically it's like the same effect, but you can see this layer. Can you guys, I don't know if it's difficult for you to see, but you have a very unnatural transition between shadow here and highlight. It tends to gray out quite a bit.
It shows on the screen.
Yeah, okay. And this one, I can even do this again to make it a little bit more subtle even. There we go. So this layer, again, you have a not very natural transition from shadow into highlight, but using apply image on the layer mask tends to be a lot more natural looking and a lot more subtle as well. So again, it's a subtle difference, but for those of you guys who are interested in, in retouching like this, I would suggest doing.
I'm just gonna answer Cortex Tech using the latest version of Photoshop CC, but doesn't see the 3D tab. That's most probably due to the video card that you have, and that's not supported. That's the only reason I see why the 3D tab wouldn't be there. Because 8 gigs of RAM and 64-bit you have, so I guess it's just a matter of the video card at that point.
Yeah, it's interesting. Maybe also try to go to Window and Workspaces and see if 3D shows up there. Yeah. You know, you might be in a custom workspace that just doesn't have 3D visible.
Could be. That's a good.
I don't know. I was just trying to help out. So Window, Workspaces, and then go down to 3D. It'll, it may not be there for you, but hopefully it is. And
there's a question from Bree Jenny is, I'm sorry if you addressed this already, but is it better to open a new project with the advanced color profile set to 1998 or Pro Photo?
Okay, that's a great question. Do you have that color sync still? Did that have Pro Photo on it?
No, it didn't. But if you have it installed, it should be on yours.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Color sync utility?
Yep, that's right.
All right, and then we can click on profiles. Yep.
No.
No, I don't see it here either. Allow me to just pull up a web page.
All right, let's do that.
All right, because this is a good question, and
Yeah, Cortex that doesn't have anything. So, yep.
yeah.
So check the minimum system requirements for Photoshop CC.
All right. Let's see if we can have a nice comparison between the two here. I'm just browsing on the internet. Okay, here's a great. Are we able to zoom into this area on the broadcast of my?
Can you zoom in? You never do?
Do you have accessibility turned on?
Oh, okay. Not like this.
Command
no.
plus.
Let's see.
I don't know how to do it.
Okay. Yeah, go into your Apple menu.
Yeah.
Let's go to System Preferences,
Okay.
Accessibility. Where is it? There. Wait. Where's Accessibility here?
Okay.
Okay, and then let's say Zoom.
Oh, okay.
And use keyboard shortcut. Okay.
You
And
have to go into the option there.
into the option. More options. Okay. Oh, maximum zoom and
Make it
minimum
like
zoom.
2.5 or something.
Okay.
That top slide.
All right. Perfect.
Okay.
Okay. And it's zoom in. Okay. All right.
Shift command.
Yeah, you should have to change anything else.
Yeah.
All right. So shift command. Is that it?
No, option.
No.
Option command plus.
All right.
Oh. Wow.
You actually zoom into the screen. We use it all the time to show menus and things. You know?
Okay, cool. Option command plus. Okay, so here is a very zoomed in image of our different color
Looks good.
spaces.
Look, we're in it.
Oh, we're in it. Can I point to it? All right, over there.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, there.
You have to get your directionality right.
Over there.
Oh, there. Yes.
That's
You got it
cool.
right.
Yeah. It's
All right, so here you see a great graph of the different color spaces that are available for you within Photoshop here. So, sRGB, we can see this small triangle here. This is, when you're saving out for the web, you want to go ahead and save out as sRGB. This is the best color space for the web because that's what most internet browsers use to read. And here we can see Adobe RGB is that larger triangle, and then ProPhoto RGB is the largest triangle. So basically, it's just like, all right, ProPhoto's RGB is the biggest one that has the most amount of information. Use that one. That's my short answer.
You know what we could do? Can we go full screen with him, but with the background? So he could be like the weatherman and point at places in the
We're just having fun now.
I'll have to make a new scene for that, but yes.
Okay. That would be so fun.
Well, let's do it.
Let's do the weatherman.
Oh, it's gonna take me a second.
Oh, really?
I have to rescale. We'll have to you want you guys.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Just make it bigger.
Yeah, there is a.
There you go. Okay. Oh, now you can do the weatherman.
Yeah.
You can even move back. Okay.
Can they hear me?
Yeah, you can move back. Oh, okay.
Okay, you guys
Yeah.
ready?
Okay. There.
Oh wait, hand down a little.
Wait.
There you go. You're right there. There you go.
Yeah.
Like the weatherman. Now you've got your.
All right. As you can see here on the very top, we have our ProPhoto RGB. It's coming
There you
down
go.
with a nice weather front here, including more colors. As we lower into the lower fronts, we see Adobe RGB. Affecting the southern half of the country. We don't recommend entering that area. And if you guys are going to be going on the web, we recommend sRGB. This is like stay indoors area. You're not getting nearly the weather patterns of the rest of the country, but you're going to be safe indoors with sRGB. And over here, just don't pay attention to this at all. This is not applicable in any way to the rest of the lesson. Lots of layers in the
Excellent.
Aaron,
Good
the
job.
weatherman.
That was pretty fun. Good idea. Woo. Lots of layers with a chance of pixels. All right. So how do I... There we go. I can zoom out now. Cool. All right. So good question, and I hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed our little weather lesson there.
We keep it light here.
We keep it light. That was fun, man. Green screen is so cool. I'm like,
tomorrow we're gonna give you the green blanket.
I know. I want to wear. Just be like
that's right. We haven't done the roaming head yet.
No, not yet.
Aaron's going.
What?
I'm into it, man. I'm into it. All right. So here we can see we're basically using apply image on our layer mask. Now let's do this. We can either continue to use apply image, or what we can do is I can use a levels adjustment layer, a levels adjustment directly here on the layer mask by hitting Controller Command L. Okay, so here on my levels, basically if I make my darks a little bit darker, okay, it's going to start to affect what areas actually get what areas are changed on my layer mask. So let's hit OK there. I'm going to hold Alt or Option and click on my layer mask, and now we can see that these are the only areas that are being affected by our curves adjustment. There we go. So what it's doing, and this curves adjustment is lightening those areas. So basically we can control, I want to lighten these areas, but just in the darks. So it's a cool way to dodge and burn because you can control, you don't have to be super precise with your brush or tablet or whatever. You can control, basically say this, I only want to lighten up the darks, or you can do the same thing to darken the lights. So we'll show you guys how to do that too. Okay, let's go ahead and grab our curves adjustment layer. Now we're gonna click here and drag that down. Okay, and then we're gonna go to image and down to apply image. We're gonna choose layer 1, and I'm gonna unclick on invert. Okay, and hit OK. So now you can see this layer is just darkening the lights. So if you do have some overexposed areas in your photos, you can use this technique to counteract the overexposure. So I'm just gonna do this a couple times because it gets more subtle every time you do it, and you start to get a much more natural effect. All right, so let's just zoom in here. We'll show you guys a quick before and after. So there's the before with our skin. It looks good, and the after, you can see we've basically made our darks lighter and our lights darker. So we have a much more even like tonal range for the skin in this image. So basically it just kind of evens out the lights and the darks. It pulls your lights darker and your darks lighter, but does it in a really nice way that you have control over. Now you can also group those two curves adjustment layers together, so you can see off and on. Okay, I'm gonna put a layer mask and invert the layer mask on that. And then I'm just gonna paint white on my layer mask. There we go. Right over top of the skin. All right, so we have our dodge and burn effects. Now this is one way of dodging and burning. This, obviously there are other ways, more traditional ways to do this as well. We'll show you guys how to do that in just a second. All right, so let's turn this layer off and on. Basically, you can see it just kind of evens out the skin tone. So the highlights don't look as bright, all right, and the shadows don't look as dark. So if you guys are starting off with skin, it's just a good way to start off. And you can always lower your opacity, like if you're, oh, that's too much, whatever. You can lower your opacity there. It just kind of makes it a little bit more even. And this is, yeah, it's a great way to retouch. We also got a photo a question from Matt Bond Photos. Is this how you do the HDR effect? And that is a great question. And yes, you can use this exact same method for the HDR effect. So yes, if you have photos that are dark, that are regularly exposed, and that are light, you can take those light exposures and then use apply image on a layer mask to make them only visible in the dark areas, and vice versa with the dark exposures, making them only visible in the light areas. So yes, actually it's an awesome way to manually HDR a photo. I would highly recommend using this method over really any other method. In my opinion, this is the best way to do an HDR. You have a lot more control and it tends to look a lot more natural. All right, cool, good questions. Sugarbow asks, are you using a Wacom? Yes, I am. This is a Wacom Intuos Pro small tablet. This is the one that I would recommend. I've been using this and variations of it for years. You can see we're pretty well.
It's very shiny. Yeah.
It's very shiny. Yeah, it's very well used. It looks like a scar. And I actually, the way that I work in Photoshop, a lot of people ask about the tablet size. You know, do I get a small tablet, a medium tablet, a large tablet? Personally, I recommend the smallest size tablet because it has to do with screen real estate. Basically, the size of your tablet here correlates to your mouse or your cursor on your screen. So if I bring my cursor from this corner to that corner, okay, that's gonna cover the distance of my screen. And so retouching, I don't wanna, you know, the larger your actual tablet is, the larger you have to move your mouse around or your pen tablet around to cover your screen. So I personally don't like this to be large. Now, I've even gone to another step, and I actually only have part of my tablet activated. So I can show you guys how to do that, but you can see there's a lot of scratches right there.
Just there, I can see them.
Just
in
there.
This area here.
That's the only place that I use my tablet. Okay, it's just a couple inches, maybe 3 inches wide by 2 inches tall. This is the only place that's activated on the whole tablet, and it allows me to work very quickly. So I'll show you guys how to do that. So again,
you don't even need to move your hand
at all. Yeah, I never move my hand. I keep my hand in the same place, and I only move my fingers, just like this, and you can move it around the entire image. So again, if you guys are debating which one to get, I'm sure the folks at Wacom would tell you to get the large one.
Of course.
But I've been using the small one for years, and I really like the small one here. Okay.
Talking about tablets, I mean, have you used AstroPad on an iPad?
No, never.
Yeah.
What is that?
AstroPad, basically, it's like, you see Photoshop on the tablet, and you can use the Apple Pencil and do the exact same thing.
And it has pressure sensitivity?
Yeah.
It's good?
Yeah. We can try it later.
Yeah, well, let's try it later. I've never used it. Yeah, we just had someone just asked that. No, I've never done that.
Yep. We'll try that.
We'll try it.
There's Santa Fe Knox says, with the new liquify tool in Photoshop, can one eye be adjusted at a time in lieu of both eyes at the same time? Yes. Oh no.
Currently, no.
Okay.
But the word on the street is
The word on the street
is that hold your horses.
Okay.
It's coming.
All right. Yeah, that's I think that's pretty important that you can do like.
Yeah, one eye at a time. Yeah, so right now. Fat Tail says, have you ever used a Cintiq? I love mine. Fat Tail, yeah, I've used a Cintiq. I went to school, college for product design, industrial design, and with that I did a lot of drawing, and Cintiq is awesome for drawing. For photo editing, I actually I really do prefer a tablet over a Cintiq for photo editing. I find it's more precise. The other thing that just personally I like about these tablets, they don't ever get hot. There's no screen here, there's no technology. I would find that after using my Cintiq tablet for an hour, my hand would start burning, you know, because it's like your hand is like up against a hot screen. Not to mention you smudge, and the accuracy on one of these tablets is, I think it's better than on a Cintiq.
I find the fact very interesting that you just use this little area here, like.
Yeah. So can we get? Maybe you can use the GoPro and we can film. Can we use the GoPro?
Yeah.
Technology.
Technology in the hands of Rufus. We're live.
We're live with the GoPro.
All right.
All right. So you guys can see. And what? Basically, you can see this is the only area that I use. So as I'm right here, I'm at the top left of my computer screen. And right here, I'm at the way bottom right of my computer screen. So you can see this is the only area.
Can we mix the two images, Jason?
Give me a second.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Jason's working on it.
Working on it. Cool.
Yeah, he's got it. And you can see it's really scratchy just in that area.
Yeah, that's the only. It's the only area that I use. But basically, what that allows me to do is, you can see I'm not even moving my my wrist or my hand at all, really. all I'm doing is just moving my fingers right around here, and I'm able to edit the entire image on my screen. So instead of having to make big, broad strokes and things like that, I'm just doing this, and it allows me to edit my entire image. So again, that's a personal preference. I'm like, kiss the ring.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's a personal preference. I want to work quickly. I'm also the type of person that when I used to use a mouse more often, I would put the sensitivity way up because I don't want to move it around a lot. I just want it to, I want to move a little bit, and I want to go, I want to go to the just set area.
That's okay, Jason. It's okay.
Yeah.
We've seen it. Okay.
Cool. And it don't make your hand hurt. Yeah, my hand feels good. I've never had an issue with carpal tunnel or anything like that. Yeah, I mean, smaller than a Mac trackpad actually for the area.
Actually,
smaller.
Yeah.
So let me show you guys how I do that. Again, it's not going to be for everyone, but I really do prefer to just use this area. So here within my...
But you could use this area.
Yeah, you could use any area. The reason I like the top left corner is I just rest my hand on the rest of the tablet, and I can move it around. So it's good for me.
Santa Fe Knox, we actually answered your question already.
Cool. So let's click on the Wacom tablet here. And here we can see a couple of tips, actually. The first tip that I would recommend doing is setting a couple of these features. Okay, so the first setting here is I have my tip feel push up to firm. That way, I mean, you can really push hard on these things. You're not going to break them. So I have this set up to firm. The next is the double click distance. I highly recommend turning that off because if you click on an area in Photoshop, it's going to wait for a second for you to click again to see if you want to double click. If you turn this all the way off, it won't wait, and your pen just gets a lot more responsive. So I highly recommend turning your double click distance off. Okay, next we have two buttons on our actual pen. The front button I have set to right click. That way when I'm using the brush tool, I can just right click and do quite a bit with that. Now my back button I have set to a keystroke. So let's show you the keystroke here. I have the back button set to Option Command Z, which is the keyboard shortcut for undo or step backwards.
Or if you want to troll your friends, just set it to Command W.
Command W, yeah, Command Q. So I have mine set to Option Command Z, which is step backwards in Photoshop. So that helps me out. Let's just jump back into Photoshop. Let's say I'm working on an image and I'm gonna write something and I'm like, okay, I want to undo that thing. Instead of going to my keyboard shortcut or whatever, I just hit that back button and then I can re-sign my name or redraw something or whatever. And because it's the step backward keyboard shortcut, I can just hit that a couple of times and we're good to go. So that's my recommendation there. Okay, now
one question that came up yesterday about the pen is how do you know when it's time to change the little nib?
That's a great question, man. I've never replaced a nib. I just never
just
have.
Replace the pen. Just go.
Yeah, just replace. Just
pen.
buy the whole thing again. No, it's fairly worn down, but I've never replaced these little nibs. I have people ask me. They say they just go through them, like they like wear completely through them, which I find insane because I use a tablet a lot and I do press hard, and yeah, you can see. I mean, I've got it's worn away, but it's not. You don't need to replace it yet.
So you use the one. Use the one that comes with a pen. You don't even go to the one that feels like a pencil or that.
No.
There's the other ones, the white ones. Like
yeah. We can open this up.
There we go. Yeah. There we go.
Show you guys the different.
GoPro.
Yeah. Okay. And now we have side by side.
Okay.
Side by side.
These are all the different nibs that come with the pen, and I think 99% of the people don't even ever open that box.
Yeah. So if you have a Intuos tab, a tablet or whatever, this is the pen holder. So it just unscrews and opens it up. And this is where all your other nibs are. This one's supposed to be like a ballpoint pen. These are supposed to be like felt marker type feels.
Yeah.
There's one that's like kind of springy, and then you have all these standard ones. I just use the standard ones, and that's I find has been totally okay with me. So yeah, I use the standard ones, and again, I've been using this tablet for, I don't know, a couple of years, and I teach Photoshop for a living, so I use it a lot, and I haven't replaced a nib yet. So well, now you know, Exedy Hapson, they're in here if you want them. And yeah, it depends on your, you know, everyone's got their own style, right? Everyone's got their own feel. I find when I first buy these Wacom Intuos tablets that they're a little bit, the surface is not smooth enough for me. So I make sure to, I just wear them down through use and
Go
whatnot.
to Home Depot and get some sandpaper. And
Yeah. Yeah, maybe some wet, dry 800 grit or something. Anyway. Okay, so next let's move on to our mapping here. So if I click on mapping, we have a few different options here. We can map our screen area and our tablet area. So you can see the screen area here I've mapped to full, so I have control over the entire map. If you guys are using multiple screens, sometimes you only want it to be visible on one screen. You can do that here. Okay. And here we have our tablet area. So you can see mine is set to portion, and you can see the portion is just right over here. I'm going to click here on portion, and we can actually click this area, so we can actually just change these. You can see we can change these corners to select the actual definable area, or we can click on this click to define tablet area, and then you just click on your actual tablet here, and then it defines your tablet area for you. So again, I have mine set to just this little area. I find it works well for me. I'm able to work quickly. So I would suggest, check it out.
Yeah, I think that's a good tip. And Apathani here says, you should start doing your own Twitch, Aaron.
You should start doing your own Twitch, Aaron. I'm really thinking about it, man.
It's like
you guys have done such a good job with this, and I'm totally blown away by the production and the setup here, and it's a lot of fun. And I want to do live streaming.
The Aaron Show.
The Aaron Show.
The Flern Show.
The Flern Show, yeah, exactly. Doing my best to separate myself from my brand. All right. I am thinking about doing live streaming, and I don't know. We have such a huge following on YouTube that I'm debating whether we use Twitch.
It's like over that number, right?
We
really
just
hard to say. Like, say it.
1 million
Woohoo!
YouTube subscribers. Yeah.
Yeah,
we just passed it like last month, and so thanks for all you guys who are subscribers to our Flern channel. Just broke 1 million subscribers, and we got a big gold plaque in the mail from YouTube, which is pretty cool. And and now when I talk to people, I can say I make YouTube videos, and they're like, "Oh, okay, you're unemployed. You don't have a job. You're not real, you know." And then I say, we just hit 1 million subscribers, and they go, okay, all right. You're like, you are a credible source of information. All right, cool. So I'm debating whether to do it on Twitch, which is working really well for you guys. Twitch has the integrated chat, which I think that's so nice. I love that. Yeah. And the Twitch community, you guys have been awesome. So, happy to be hanging out with you guys. And then YouTube, I've never tried the YouTube live,
but I'm pretty sure we'll see you live somewhere pretty soon.
You will see me live. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna do my best to just copy exactly what you've done here because it's working so well, and we're gonna have fun. Cool. All right, thanks guys. Thanks for the support. Okay, so those are the settings that I use with my Wacom tablet. If you guys are interested. All right. Cool. You ready to move on?
Let's move on.
All right, great. So, all right.
You have 45 minutes.
We got 45 minutes. Okay. Well, let's go ahead. I think we got some really great tips for this image. We're gonna move on to our next image. So, you guys, the camera raw, dialogue. I hope that helped out there. Using the camera raw filter and bringing your clarity down is like a very quick way of retouching skin. Basically, just reduces contrast in the pores and everything like that. And hopefully these methods for dodging, burning, and apply image, hopefully that helped out as well.
Dodging and burning.
Dodging and burning. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and close this down. I'll go ahead and save this out.
So Pierce Fly says, can you talk about the updated Select and Mask tool in CC 2015.5? We did talk about it yesterday, but I think we're going to be making some selections today as well, right?
Yeah, we are. We're about to do that.
Yeah, we're about to do it. So stay tuned, Pierce Fly.
All right. And just to answer real quick, Alex Vulcan's question, can you talk about the shot, lighting, and modifiers, etc.?
I'm fascinated by the light under the hair. Like the eye is actually lit.
Oh, yeah. So I've, over the past year, fallen in love with V-flats. Man, they are awesome. Basically, if you guys don't know what a V-flat is, it's just a piece of foam core. You can get them in 4-foot by 8-foot sections. So you guys have some V-flats right there.
Oh, these ones. But these are black.
Those are black, yeah.
Like these?
Yeah, exactly that. Maybe Rufus can grab one of those and we can see what that looks like. Yeah, so yeah, cool. So this is basically this is a piece of foam core here, and if you go to like a nice art store, you can beautiful. If you go to a nice art store, like I got mine at Blick Art Supplies in Chicago.
Oh, I love that store.
Yeah, Blick is great.
Yeah.
They have 4-foot by 8-foot sections of foam core, and Blick even delivered it right to my studio for like $30, which was great. So a 4-foot by 8-foot section of foam core, I think they're like 15, maybe $20 each. I taped 2 of them together, and that's what creates the V flat with a PH. I love it. Thanks, Star Crunch. So basically tape those together. So what you have is a V here that's 8 feet tall and 8 feet wide. It's all white. So it's a giant white area that's shaped like a V. So what I do is I place this behind me. So if I'm photographing Rufus here, okay, and I've got
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's get some.
You want to do it for real? Yeah? Let's do it. All right.
Here you go.
Yeah, you want to? Come on over.
Yeah, Star Crunch. You can hold them.
Star Crunch. Are you Star Crunch?
I am, yeah.
Oh. Nice.
So
Okay.
How did that work?
Can they hear me? Can they hear us? Maybe do we need to bump the mic up?
You have to kind of shout a little.
All right. Cool.
All right,
So Star Crunch, if you can get behind me here, actually.
Sorry.
All right, and hold the V flats behind me. So, yep, they're gonna go back there. Yep, and then this other one
Angle
back there
this way,
too.
or-
Yep, just like that. And then let's open this one up a little bit. Can they see that on? There we go. They can see that. Oh, that's so cool with the GoPro. I love that. All right, Rufus, can you come around the side here?
Yep, got it.
All right, got it.
All right. And I'm just gonna use a light stand real quick. There we go.
Already lit.
All right, so you're gonna go over there actually.
Okay.
Yeah. So I know it's like a little bit weird, but all right. So we have our light stand here. This is our V flat. Okay. So basically, just put a strobe, like whatever strobe you guys are using, put it with a regular reflector pointing into the V flat.
Okay.
So the strobe is gonna hit the V flat. The light is gonna hit here and then bounce back in this direction.
So you're making 2 lights out of 1.
We're making an 8-foot softbox out of 1 light.
Wow, that's cool.
That's like really, and if you need more too, sometimes what I'll do is I'll put 1 light up high like this, higher up, and then I'll use a super clamp and super clamp a light on the bottom if you need it to be even. So your light is shining in this direction, and then it bounces back, and basically what you have is an 8-foot softbox. So what I'll do is, if you want to stand right over there, if I'm photographing you, I'll have this behind me, so I've got an 8-foot light that's coming in this direction, and I'll photograph you here, and that's shooting and filling in all of your shadows. So when it comes to lighting ratios, make sure that this is not as bright as your main light sources because you just want it to fill. But
awesome.
Yeah, basically it keeps your shadows from going completely dark and areas like under hats and hair and stuff like that. You just got like a huge amount of fill light.
I like the huge softbox. Yeah.
It's awesome, and you can use it for like rim lights as well. You can, instead of having it be behind you, you can use it on the sides as well. So if you guys don't have, like I don't own an 8-foot softbox. Basically, you can just make one out of 2 pieces of foam core.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, quick and easy.
Thank you, Star Crunch.
Yeah, thank you.
My pleasure.
Move these away.
All right.
Good job, guys.
Thank you. Good job.
Mission accomplished.
Okay.
Okay. Cool. That was a great question, guys. I hope that helped out. Cool. And yes, I would recommend having white. And you can also... Sorry, I just had a bite of food.
Oh.
They do have black and white foam core that's black on one side and white on the other. And that's really nice too because you can use the same technique to make it a softbox, or you can use the other side for subtractive lighting. Like if you wanted to add
like
more
just
shadow,
like a shine, or like just on the side of the face. Yeah.
Exactly. So Grace Full X Dead also asks a question: how do you avoid an Aaron-sized shadow using this method? Surprisingly, you don't really see the shadow that much because it's such a large softbox, which is cool. The other thing that you can do, if you really wanted to, you can place 2 of those V-flats on the left and the right, and then you're not going to interfere with the light at all. Again, these V-flats are relatively inexpensive, so you can get, like, we have probably 12 of them in our studio. We just tape them together, and I think it costs us like $150 for all 12. So that's really nice. And also, you can, if you really wanted to, you can set your camera on a tripod. And then I use, a lot of the time during a photo shoot, I'll use a pocket wizard with the remote trigger setup as well. So I'll stand off to the side. I'm not even at the camera. I'll stand off to the side and I'll take my pictures basically with a remote trigger. And I love that method. Basically, it allows me to interact with my subject, and I'm not messing around with the camera too much. That it's great for if your subject is like seated and they're standing relatively still, and you don't have to mess with focus too much. And you can also get out of the way. Okay, cool. All right, good questions, guys. All right, so we've got still like 40 more minutes, yeah?
Yep.
All right, cool. Let's go ahead and open up our next image for the day. So we're going to open up, this is, all right. Great questions, guys. Okay, so our next image of the day, this is our athlete. So this is another image that is part of the Photoshop 101 through 301 photo shoot, and you learn how to retouch this image and bring it all together. So in this case, you can actually see some of the setup, which is kind of nice, and I'll talk you guys through that real quick here.
Is this in your studio?
Yeah, this is in my studio here. And so we've got a, just a regular seamless backdrop set up there. And you can see, I mean, this obviously doesn't look anywhere near professional right now, but, with a little bit of retouching and stuff like that, we'll be able to make this look quite a bit better pretty quickly. Okay, so you can see our backdrop is set up just on some normal light stands here. On the top of the frame, you see we have 2 black cloth areas, and those are flags. Basically, you can buy them at a photography store or whatever. It's just basically like a piece of black cloth stretched around a metal frame, and it blocks light. 1 second.
Well, while you do that, can we just post is it survey?
I just did.
Oh, you just did? Okay. Yeah, that's super important, guys, if you answer the survey for us, because it'll help us, understand what you guys want to see on this channel, what we want to do in the future, what the future of this channel actually is, and it really helps us understand who we're talking to. And each day, I think, is it each day that there is actually each day we're giving away a 1-year Creative Cloud subscription to a lucky winner who of somebody who took the survey that day. Okay, so please fill in the survey. It'll help us and it'll help you. Thank you.
Yeah, nice. We want to see more Star Crunch.
Yeah. Yeah, they went crazy. Like, everybody wants Star Crunch now. All right. Star Crunch, you want to come here and talk with Aaron?
Yeah, grab a chair.
Yeah.
Okay, so talking through this photo a little bit more, the lighting, we've got a bare bulb light source, and that's off to the camera left. That's what's creating that really nice shadow on the backdrop. So again, completely bare bulb. And the flags at the top, those are...
Sorry, there's a good... I'm sorry.
No, go ahead,
what
cool.
if you already have CC? Well, if you win a subscription, it's cumulative. So basically, if you're already a member for the next year, well, it'll be another year. Okay? So that's the way it works.
Oh,
so
that's cool.
Yeah. So it's not like... If you just fill in the survey, okay?
Just do it.
Just do it. Yeah. And if you win another year, well, that's perfect,
Just do it. It's important.
In the survey.
The
survey. The survey.
All right. So we've got a bare bulb light camera left, and that's what's creating this nice shadow here on our subject. And we've got some flags here on the left and the right, and that's because we're using rim lights. We're using rim lights to light up the sides of our subject. So you can see the light here on the left side of our subject. So this light here, as well as this light, and on the right side of our subject. Those are what's called rim lights, and they really help to define the visibility of like musculature and things like that, and just give it a little bit more. You see rim lights a lot with like sports portraits and things like that. It makes sense to kind of light them up. And we're a little bit overexposed. That just has to do with on the day of the photo shoot, I didn't set up my lighting ratios perfectly, but in a sports portrait, things like this, I really like this type of lighting. Okay, so zooming back out, that's basically a quick idea of what's going on in this image. So let's go ahead and start off with, we're going to be putting our subject on a brand new background, and a lot of the time when I'm photographing a subject on a background like this, I usually don't try to clean up the image. I usually just try to cut them out and then put them on a new background. Even if it's the same color background, just putting them on a new background, it makes everything so much more simple. So let's go ahead and start off here. I'm gonna grab an adjustment layer. We're gonna go to solid color, okay? And here in my solid color, let's just hit okay here. It's white right now, but I'm gonna make that invisible. We're gonna double click here, and I'm gonna use my eyedropper tool, and I'm gonna eyedrop the color here from my actual backdrop. So let's hit okay there. And so you can see now we have a solid fill layer that's the same color as the backdrop here, okay? Now, what we're gonna do, I'm gonna hold Alt or Option and double click on the background layer, and we're gonna bring the color fill layer right underneath. Okay, so we've got our layer 0 and the color fill layer right underneath. All right, I'm getting like a ton of Facebook messages. Stop talking to me on Facebook. All right. Okay. So now we have our subject, and we have a color fill adjustment layer that is the same color as our background. So let's go ahead. Earlier, someone asked us how to use the new select and mask. So we're going to use this to cut our subject out from the background. Okay. So clicking on our subject, we're going to go up to select and down to select and mask. All right, so here within the select mask, let's make sure we're on the right layer. Yep, select and then select and mask. All right, now we have a bunch of different view modes here. So we have our view, at the top we see onion skin, and this is a new view mode within select and mask, and I really like it actually. What it allows you to do is change your opacity to see what's actually visible and not visible in your image. So in this case, let's bring our opacity right up to about 50%, okay? We're gonna start off with the tool here on the top left here. This is the quick selection tool. And basically I'm gonna just start painting right over top of our subject. So as I paint over top of my subject, you're gonna see that he becomes visible and our background basically stays where it is. All right, so we're gonna select him out of the background. Let's make sure his entire head is selected. There we go. All right, and let's get his feet in there as well. All right. Now, if you want to make sure that you have selected everything, go ahead and start working on your transparency. So in this case, you can see this is our subject basically on his new background, and there are some areas that are missing from the selection. So let's bring that down a little bit. I'll say, let's go ahead and paint over these areas. Yes, we do want these areas to be a part of the selection. So it's going to add these. Now I'm using the quick selection tool here. You can also use the brush tool within the same dialog box, and that's going to allow you just simply paint visibility on a layer mask.
Yeah, I usually do that when I look at it on the black and white version, like the mask, and there you can clearly see that there's some areas that you can quickly fill with the brush tool, just to.
Yeah, good point. All right, so let's go ahead and grab the brush tool here. Let's make this a little bit smaller, and then I'm gonna paint over just a little bit, and then I'm gonna see if I can use the quick selection tool to remove that area. All right. And again, this is one way to do, to select your subject out from the background. If you wanted to create a very precise selection, you could also use the pen tool, which would be a really great tool for this job as well. All right, so just using my brush tool, kind of painting my subject, and you can see he's becoming more visible. There we go. All right, he's becoming more visible, and all right, there we go. Now you can hold Alt or Option. Let's just change our transparency up to 100% here. There we go. You can hold Alt or Option with your brush tool, and that'll allow you to minus areas out. So you can minus areas out as well, or you can try to use the quick selection tool and minus areas out with that. That doesn't seem to be working so well, so we're just gonna go right back to our regular brush tool. All right, so here's using the select and mask. Now in this case, it's doing a pretty good job, but I'm actually I think that their magic wand tool is actually gonna do a better job for this, which is earlier we said magic wand, why would you ever use the magic wand tool?
Tragic wand.
The tragic wand tool. I love the magic wand tool. I think it's great. It gets a bad rap. So let's cut our subject out with the magic wand tool. So I'm gonna hit W for our magic wand tool, and basically just click around the edges around my image. So we're gonna shift click here. If you're selecting too much, just lower your tolerance down. All right, there we go. We're just gonna add to this area, and in this case, I do want to select out the shadow as well. All right, that looks pretty decent. So let's click on our layer mask icon now. I'm gonna hit Control-Command-I to invert the layer mask. Okay, and here we have our subject pretty well cut out. Now we're gonna do some work on him in just a little bit. Alt or Option on the layer mask, and we can see this is what the layer mask looks like now. So obviously I want all of this area around the image to be black. I don't need any of that visible. So it's really quick, simple to do. Just grab your marquee tool. I'm using a rectangular marquee tool here. And we're just gonna make selections right around our, there we go, right around the edges. I'm holding the Shift key down to add to these selections. All right, there we go. And now with these selections active, I'm gonna go to Edit and down to Fill, and we're gonna fill those with black. Okay, now you can see it's not perfect just yet. Let's hold Alt or Option and click on this, but you can see pretty quickly we've cut our subject out of the background, and it looks super clean now. So I usually don't even try to retouch a seamless backdrop. Even if they're on white, I usually still cut them out, and I just put them on the white.
Just a lot less hassle.
It's a lot, yeah, exactly. It's a lot less hassle. Now I just have a background that's really nice and clean that I can actually work with. Okay, now we've got a couple of things that we want to look at here. The first thing is we still have some of the shadow from down here, so I actually want to select that out. We're going to remove that from this layer. And the second thing, if I shift click on this layer mask, you can see that his shoe was actually cut off from the original shadow here, because just the seamless paper wasn't wide enough. That happens sometimes. The important part is his foot is there, so we're going to show you guys how to replicate the shadow for the shoe.
Yeah, because that's missing in the picture.
Yeah, it's just not there even in the picture. And you can see with the magic wand tool, our subject looks cut out pretty nicely here. right? He's got a nice hard edge, but our shadow, you can see, doesn't really look that good. So let's go ahead and use our magic wand tool now, and now we're gonna select out just the shadow, all right, from our subject. And on my layer mask, I'm gonna just fill that with black as well. Okay, so Shift Delete is the keyboard shortcut. We're gonna fill that with black. All right, and now, basically, let's just make sure that that is selected too. Fill that in with black. Okay, so now we have just our subject cut out from his background. All right, let's hold Alt or Option. Take a look at our layer mask. Layer mask looks pretty good there. So our subject is successfully cut out of his background. Okay, now, yesterday, we created a duplicate of our subject, and we basically did we created a shadow from scratch in Photoshop.
Using box blur.
Using the box blur, exactly. Now, in this case, what we're actually gonna use is we're gonna use his shadow from the image. So we have this layer as his shadow, okay? Now we're gonna use, this layer is our subject. Now we're gonna use a duplicate of this layer, and we're gonna get the shadow. We said still shadow lines on the left side leg. Oh yeah, there are a couple here. Thank you,
wow,
Grungy.
yeah.
How'd you see that? I didn't even see that. Grungy's like, cause I got amazing vision, that's how. All right, cool. Yeah, so we're just gonna mask those out really quick. Thank you for showing me that. Okay, so let's go ahead and duplicate this layer. I'm gonna hit Control or Command J to duplicate it. Let's make the top layer invisible. Okay, and then the bottom layer, we're going to shift click on the layer mask here. Okay, because I wanna make sure that I can actually see what I'm doing. All right, and we're gonna use our magic wand tool, and I'm gonna select out our shadow. So I'm holding Shift to select out the shadow here. There we go. Okay, and now with my selection active, we're gonna go up to Select, and I'm gonna go down to Select and Mask. All right. There we go. So that's my selected area now. You can see it's just the shadow. We're gonna add feathering to that area. All right, which just gives me a little bit more, because you can see, let's just zoom in to show you guys why I'm doing that. I use the magic wand tool, which is great. It did select out the shadow, but you can see it's got a hard edge here. So by bringing my feathering up just a little bit, now I'm including the actual like shadow edge from the image itself. And I don't mind if it's included a little bit of my subject as well. I'll show you guys why in a second. Okay, and we're gonna output this to a selection. All right, let's hit OK there. Great. Now with this as a selection active, let's click on our layer mask. Okay, and I'm gonna hit Shift Delete, and we're gonna fill that on our layer mask with white. All right, very nice. And I'm just gonna make sure to paint it white, like right under our subject as well, because we did add a little bit of feathering, which sometimes can feather the edge, like right there. All right. Cool, so basically on one layer, we have our subject, and then on another layer, we have our subject and our subject shadow. And the cool thing is it's the real shadow, it's the real shadow from our image. So again, on this layer is just our subject. On this layer, we have our subject and the shadow. So I can turn the shadow off and on, which is really cool. All right. Now, the next thing what I want to do is I need to replicate this area of our subject's shoe, right? In this case, the shoe was actually off of the paper. All right. So we're going to click on our layer mask here, and I'm going to paint black on my layer mask just to make sure, we don't need that area to show up right there at the very edge. I'm just going to kind of like fade out his shoe. There we go. Okay. Now with this layer, the top layer here, we're gonna duplicate just the shoe. So let's make sure there's a small tiny area that we didn't mask in. So let's make sure we mask that in first. All right, and on the bottom of the shoe here. Doing this relatively quickly here. Okay, so let's go ahead and duplicate this entire layer. I'm gonna right click and go to apply the layer mask. So now what we have is just this layer, no layer mask. And I'm gonna make a selection around the shoe, and then invert my selection, and then just delete. So we got a floating foot here. Basically just a floating foot. Now, so I've got my subject, I've got my background here, and I've got a floating foot, and I'm going to use this foot to make a selection, and we're going to use that selection to create a shadow. Okay, so with our floating foot here, basically I'm going to hit Control or Command T. We're going to rotate that around. I'm going to kind of try to line it up there with like the laces and stuff like that. Okay, now Control or Command click on this layer. Okay, and on a new layer right above that, I'm going to use B for the brush tool, and we're just going to paint with our brush tool inside of this selection, just like that. Okay, so basically we have our, just to break it down for you guys, just so everyone's like, we're on the same page here. We have this layer, which is this our subject and the shadow. We have this, which is a duplicate of the shoe, which I need to rotate around just a little bit more again. Okay, that's a duplicate of the shoe. And then we have this layer, which is just our subject. All right, cool. And Applethani says box blur now. Exactly, we're gonna box blur. So click on your layer here with the new shoe. All right, we're gonna go to filter. You know what, we can turn this into a smart object so we can change our box blur at any time. If I'm doing a blur in Photoshop, it's always a good idea to turn into a smart object first. So let's turn our shoe into a smart object. We'll go to filter, blur, and down to box blur. All right, which again, if you guys are replicating shadows, box blur is just a really, really nice blur. It does such a good job. It really does make images look a lot more like shadows. And if you watch the rebroadcast of yesterday's episode, you can see we compared the box blur to the Gaussian blur, and in my opinion, it creates a much nicer blur. So in this case, I'm not trying to...
No, you can see it right away, like comparing it to the shadow from the photograph,
yeah, it
and
looks
the one
same.
we've just created. It just looks
like,
seamless.
Okay, cool. That looks good. Okay, so now we have our subject cut out on a new background, and we have our shadows here as well. So what I want to do is I want to actually create another stripe of color underneath my... Jan Eric says, I prefer the fox blur. So I want to create a stripe of color underneath our subject.
Remember,
here.
Facetious.
Oh, yes. So we're going to grab a fill layer. We're going to go to solid color. And in this case, I'm going to choose like a really nice kind of like bright pink here. Again, we can change this color at any time. Okay, let's hit OK there. Now, in this case, on my layer mask, I'm going to use my marquee tool, select an area, and I'm going to invert the layer mask, deselect, and then invert that out again. Okay, so now what we have is we have this pink area here on our background. I'm actually going to hit Control or Command T to transform this. I want to bring this as like a stripe at an angle. So I'm going to hold Alt or Option and Shift and Command, and that's going to allow me to actually like edit this, basically skewing it. So we're going to just kind of like skew it in that direction there. Just kind of creating
a nice movement, yeah.
Yeah, just creating a little bit of interesting movement in there. All right, yay for pink.
Yeah, magenta X. Magenta and pink.
Magenta and pink. All right, so now what we have our foot here, right? And we have the rest of the shadow as well. Now the shadow looks great on the green here, but the pink area, you can see we have a green shadow on pink, which obviously we don't want that, right? So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna shift click on the shadow layer and on the layer that we duplicated the foot and applied the box blur. We're gonna shift click on the two of those and then just create a smart object out of the two of those layers. So just those layers are getting a smart object. There we go. Perfect. So now basically we've got our subject here as a regular layer cut out from his background. And then we've got a smart object here of the shadow, which is really cool. So what we can do a couple of things. I'm gonna start by duplicating this shadow. Okay, so duplicating the shadow, we're gonna click and drag it down to the new layer icon. So we have two shadows now. Now the first shadow, we're gonna leave it where it is. And the second one, I'm gonna bring it right down here. Okay. So we've got two shadows, one above the pink layer and one above the green layer. This color combination is so early 90s. Yeah, I love it.
You weren't born.
Me?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Almost born.
I was born in 1983.
1983?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
I was seven years old.
In the 90s.
In the 90s, yeah. Yeah. So we've got our two different shadow layers. So our shadow layer here on the pink and our shadow layer on the green. Now, what we're gonna do is use clipping masks to make sure that each of these shadows only appear. We want this layer to just appear here on the color fill, and we want this one to just appear on this color fill. So we're gonna right click here, and we're gonna go to create a clipping mask. Okay, and this one we're gonna right click and go to create a clipping mask as well. Now visually, you're not gonna see much of a change, but there is a huge change because if I make this layer invisible, you can see now we just have shadow on the pink, and this layer is visible again. You know, this is only on the pink and this one's only on the green, which is really cool. All right, and iPhantom says, what happened to putting the shadow on multiply, which you can totally do. So this shadow here, if you wanted to put that on a multiply blending mode, you can totally do that. And this one, you could do the same thing as well. So obviously there are a lot of different ways to do this. Now in this case, instead of having this on multiply, these layers on multiply, I'm gonna leave them on normal and I'm just gonna recolor them. So you can do this in a number of ways. And yeah, definitely great questions, guys. So the shadow here on the pink, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna hit Controller Command U, which is the hue/saturation adjustment layer. Okay, and then I can simply adjust my hue, there we go, to have it be more representative of this actual pink color. There we go. And here I can even lighten my shadow and add some saturation and stuff like that as well, which I think I might do. So let's lighten it and add a little bit of saturation. There we go. All right, because we have a lighter color here on the pink background. So the reason I did this, guys, because now we have this shadow. Remember, we just used a smart filter. We used a hue saturation adjustment layer. So I recolored the shadow that's over top of the green, and while recoloring it, it's clipped to this color fill adjustment layer, and then we have the regular shadow underneath there. So the cool thing about this is if I decide to move this color fill adjustment layer, because this layer is just clipped to it, if I move it, it's going to move around my pink shadow as well. So anywhere that I move this to, it's going to automatically make the pink shadow visible just in that area. So it's a really nice way to just kind of have it, you know, only visible in a certain area. And in this case, I can, you know, change some dimensions there and we're good to go. So just, you know, kind of like my take at, you know, doing this a little bit more fun and artistic. All right. Now, zooming out here, I am going to add a gradient. So we had a great question about gradients earlier. How do you keep your gradients smooth? My big suggestion, if you're working with gradients, make sure you're working with 16-bit images and use color modes like Adobe RGB 1998 and also ProPhoto RGB, which is what I'm editing in now.
Because they have much more color inside.
Yep, exactly. All right. So let's go ahead and grab another solid color adjustment layer here. We're gonna do like a nice light blue. We'll see what we're gonna do here. I'm gonna hit Option Command G, and that's gonna clip that to our background, just like that. Okay, and now here on my layer mask, I can invert that, and I can use my gradient tool to simply gradient from the bottom up. So we're just getting a little bit more of like a graphic type image. Now let's go ahead and move all these guys down real quick. Let's make sure, there we go. We're gonna move all those down, and I'm gonna change the crop of my image as well. So C for the crop tool, we're just gonna change our crop. All right, cool. And let's go ahead, this shadow, or the gradient here, I'm just gonna bring that down a little bit, and we're gonna put that on an angle as well to kind of match the angle of the other image. All right, so we've got a little bit of an angle there, and I'm gonna hit Controller Command J to duplicate that, make sure it's clipped as well, and then we're gonna transform that around and make sure we've got a very similar angle on the other side as well. So it's gonna kind of show up as, there we go. Oh, cool. So we've got a blue gradient. All right, let's go ahead and redo our gradient there.
That blue is burning my retina.
Ah, Yeah, we can change it at any time. All right, let's go ahead and change our blue a little bit. Yeah, it's a little bit too much. So let's go ahead and double click here on our blue, and I would just want to maybe bring it a little bit darker. Yeah, that's better. Now, if you want to use the same, like, you know, for instance, if you want to use the same blue in a couple different images, yeah, that's kind of nice there. If you want to use the same blue in a couple of different blend modes, so in this case we have 2 different color fill layers, you can add this color to a swatch, or you can simply copy this number here. There's a number here at the bottom of your color picker that will give you that exact color in Photoshop. So let's hit copy there. Just Control-Command-C to copy that. Let's hit OK, and we're going to double click here, and I'm going to hit Control-Command-V, and it's just going to paste that exact number, and that's the number code of that color, and then we're good to go. Okay, so now we have just a little bit of the kind of color bleeding in there. So really cool. We have our shadow. Okay, we have our shadow that's pink on the pink backdrop. We have our shadow, it's, you know, bluish green here on the bluish green. And we have our subject. You can see our subject is cut out from his background as well. Okay, now in this case, our subject is looking a little bit dark. Okay, so what I want to do is grab my adjustment layer. We're going to go up to curves. Okay, Option-Command-G is the keyboard shortcut to clip. And we're going to click and drag this up just to brighten him. But remember earlier when we said it's brightening the highlights too, right? And the highlights were already a little bit blown out. And that's just my fault, right? I should have lowered the power on my lights a little bit, you know. So if you have blown out highlights, just, you know, that happens during the photo shoot. So we did brighten up our curves, brighten up our subject using the curves adjustment layer. But now I'm going to click on my layer mask, and we're going to go to image, and I'm going to go to apply image. Okay. And what I want to make sure is to click on the invert tab there. And what this does is it's only going to make this visible in the shadows. Okay, so we're just brightening up the shadows. It looks a little bit flat now. Let's try it again. Image, apply image. All right. You know what? We'll just lower the opacity a little bit. There we go. So this is only bringing up the brightness of the shadows, which is kind of nice. And then we'll just do another curves adjustment layer. And clip to him. There we go. All right, just adding a little bit more contrast as well to our subject. We'll bring our darks a little bit darker. So you can see I'm just clicking here on my curves, bringing my darks a little bit darker and my brights a little bit brighter. Just adding a little bit more contrast to our subject because it is like a sports type of image. All right.
See, to be fair, Aaron was the one who got me into Photoshop. His videos being not only among the first, but the best also. All right? If he had a Twitch account, I'd follow him without question.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and many people are saying that, dude. You know?
Wow.
Yeah, I think you have no choice.
Destiny. Cool. All right. So we're looking great, guys. Let's go ahead and zoom in. There are a couple of things that we want to work with here, and this is going to happen a lot if you guys are, you know, if you're cutting your subjects out of the background. This is going to happen a lot where you're going to get a little bit of color fringing here. Like you can see, there's still some like green around his leg, and you know here we're seeing some of this green color and whatnot there as well. So I'm going to show you guys a really great tip for how to fix color fringing in your images. Let's just clean up our layer mask real quick there. Okay, so in this case, we have this green color that's on our subject. So we can turn our subject off and on, and we can see that green color is there. Okay, so let's make a new adjustment layer.
They're hyping stuff that doesn't exist yet.
I love it, man. I love it. Do you guys, hey, just a quick question. Do you guys watch YouTube live stuff as well? Or you're like, nah, Twitch is where it's at? I'm curious because I would love to do something live, and I'm trying to figure out, do we do YouTube live or do we do Twitch?
Okay, we'll have the answer in 30 seconds.
In 30 seconds, we'll have the answer. All right. I'll jump back into this.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Okay. I think they're starting to come in. Twitch bro.
Bruh. All right.
Okay.
Twitch is where it's at.
Okay, that's like, ooh, wow. Okay.
It looks like a 60-40 kind of.
Yeah, pretty much.
Twitch only. Make a straw poll. Yeah. Okay, you just created a straw poll.
Okay,
so
great.
we'll look at the results later. Okay, you guys, fill in the straw poll, and then we'll have a look at it with Aaron, and let's see if we can somehow lead him into the right direction. All right, let's go back to your image.
Back to the image. Yeah,
time is running out.
Yes,
dude.
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a great tip, guys, because a lot of the time when you have some color fringing there, it's a pain in the butt, but there's a great tip to get it to go away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer that's just right above my subject, and this is clipped to my subject. You remember yesterday we talked about clipping masks. So it's clipped to my subject, meaning it's only going to be visible exactly where my subject is visible. So now what I'm going to do is use my brush tool. So B for the brush tool. I'm going to hold Alt or Option to sample a color, and then I'm just going to paint right here on the bottom of our image. So we're just painting basically with a color that I sampled from his skin onto our image. Okay, so right now this is obviously I'm just painting brown, but we can change the blend mode of this layer from normal down to hue or normal down to color. Okay, and this is going to color this with whatever color we want. And because it's clipped to our subject, we don't have to worry about like trying to color in the lines. That's not at all important. We're just simply painting this on the outer edges with, for instance, in this case, it's the color of his skin, right? So we're just painting the color of his skin. There we go. And I'm recoloring just the edges here to be the color of his skin. So we're completely removing that green fringe, and you guys can see it's like there's some right there, so I could just, you know, take that away. It takes like 2 seconds to remove any type of color fringes, even on the laces. I'm gonna hold Alt or Option on the background color, and we're gonna select that color, and I can simply paint that visible there on the background, which did actually color his laces as well. All right, so in this case, we'll just paint that right there. Not a big deal though, because we can, there we go. I'll show you guys in just 1 second what we can do there.
The devil is in the details.
The devil is always in the details. Not a big deal, because what we can do is we can just do a new layer, basically the same. Now I'm gonna use my brush tool to paint black on the new layer. I'm gonna change this from normal down to color, okay? And then I don't want this to show up where the underlying layers are lighter, right? So we're gonna double click, and I'm just gonna hold Alt or Option and use my blend if to make this invisible from the lighter areas, just coloring the darker areas, which happen to be the shoelaces, which I think is pretty dang cool.
Matt Bond, you're still here, 5 a.m., almost bedtime. God, that is dedication. And DBH Photographisk is asking, why wouldn't you use hue and saturation to isolate that color?
You can do that as well. Yeah. Again,
there's a million ways to do a million things.
The nice thing about grabbing just the regular brush tool and painting with color is you don't have to try to match it. Like hue saturation is great, but you got to find just the right hue, just the saturation and lightness. Color, you just like sample the color, paint over it, and you're done. That's an exact color match. So that's the method I find to be a little bit faster. All right, cool. And in really not a lot of time, we've kind of we've created a cool type image. So
and like yesterday, we used a fake shadow, and today we used the real shadow plus a little fake shadow.
Plus a little bit of fake shadow, and you can see they blend together pretty well. If we wanted to add, a little bit more box blur, because remember we created our fake shadow. Here we created this fake shadow using smart objects. So if I want to go back and double click here on my smart object for this fake shadow and double click on my box blur and increase that box blur just a little bit and save that out and then close it. There we go. So we'll just save that out and close it. It's going to automatically update the box blur on this image, which is a smart object within, see it's updating now, and we have a little bit more blur. So it's a smart object within a smart object meta.
Hey, dude, we have like 3 minutes to go. So can we just switch over quickly to my screen just to look at the straw poll? And there has been about just under 80 votes.
Whoa.
And it's 89% for Twitch. Yeah.
Dang.
So So take it into consideration.
Yeah, I love this Twitch audience. You guys are great.
And so let's talk a little bit just about what we're going to be seeing tomorrow.
Yeah, so tomorrow.
Because tomorrow is the last day.
The last day.
Time flies.
Time flies, yeah. Well,
We could
join
do
us
that every day.
I really could do this every day. It's a lot of fun. So join us tomorrow, guys. We're going to be doing the basically very similar format. I'm going to start off with 5 more tips to help you get to working faster and smarter in Photoshop, and then we're going to move on to actual image editing. We're going from start to finish. And in this series, we're editing images from Photoshop 101 through 301, which is our brand new tutorial on Phlearn.com. So if you guys don't know how to spell Phlearn, it's right here, phlearn.com, and you can go to phlearn.com/Photoshop and take a look at it. It's an amazing tutorial. It's over 20 hours of Photoshop instruction. We just released it last week, and it's already the best-selling tutorial we've ever released. Like, reviews are like through the roof, and you guys are going to.
Yeah, Evil 3 says you should do it every day. Yeah. All right, guys, and right after us, stay tuned because there's going to be Eric Kim with his street photography workshop, and you're here. I can hear you. All right, and basically, we're also going to be talking about the 10 winners of the street photography jam. All right, so stay tuned. We're going to change the setup very quickly, and we're going to be back in less than 30 seconds. See you soon.